Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 14. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, we have football. The Chiefs are 1-0. The Texans are 0-1, and Andy Reid needs a defroster on his mask.
that poor mask gave him. And he even said after the game, it was brutal, and he graded his performance with it and said, he'll only get better with that. No, but man, was it so good to see an NFL game last night, and I think kind of more importantly of the smattering of fans, in
right.
the stands there as well too. I think that
it was loud.
Yeah,
it was like 22,000, but Arrowhead, man.
Yeah, and I think that gives us a little bit of optimism. Obviously a lot of stadiums around the league are not going to have fans in them, the first couple of weeks at least here. But hopefully if things kind of stay, on even keel the way they are right now, maybe by at least a quarter point of the season, maybe we're getting quarter of the stadiums filled around the NFL. And boy, won't that help a little bit when it comes to profits and really, the end result, the salary cap, and the impact that it'll have on 2021 season. So I think a lot of encouraging things overall when you just look at big picture of that game Thursday night. But one of those encouraging things I don't think was the Houston Texans overall. Were the Chiefs that good? I mean, look, I think obviously the answer to that is probably yes. But are the Texans that bad?
Maybe the answer to that is yes as well. They look like a team that was sorely missing one DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, remind me again why they traded him away.
Yeah, David Johnson is less useful when you're down 3 scores in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, look, and I think David Johnson did some good things. What was one of the things that stuck out to you or throughout the game? To me, it was the tackling. I just thought neither team really looked like they were ready to tackle in that game. First and foremost, it wasn't as sloppy as I thought it would be. Pre-snap penalties and all like that. Also in the first half, I think there was just one explosive play in the first half, as well. But what were your kind of big picture thoughts coming out of that game?
Yeah, it felt like teams were more conservative, just trying to get the basics down. There wasn't that level of sloppiness, I agree, but there were drop passes. DeMarcus Robinson dropped 2 of them in the first quarter for the Chiefs, and they still put up 34 on Houston.
Will Fuller dropped one as well, too. Welcome back, NFL.
Right. Yeah, for real. Some things don't change even in 2020. It looked like a Texans team that did not have that defined weapon in their offensive line. Clearly, they lost the battle up front, and that Edwards-Helaire kid for Kansas City, if they needed another weapon, they didn't need another weapon, but they got one and having a really strong ground game now.
Man, are we looking at it? I looked at their schedule and just kind of went back through their game real quick last night. Are we looking at a Texans team that could potentially start the season 0-4?
They got Baltimore this week 2, and then Pittsburgh week 3. I don't know who they have week 4.
I think it's Minnesota week 4.
Okay, yeah, that's possible. I mean, I think there'll be better days for Houston, but that line looks rough, and they don't have the weapons. I mean, yeah, it could be tough sledding for Bill O'Brien and company.
I bought into the whole going to be a close game out of the shoot aspect of it. I thought Kansas City would win that game last night. I wasn't convinced. I thought the line was too big. Boy, was I wrong.
I'm with you. Both 0-1 to start the year.
Yeah, both 0-1. We both had the Texans plus 9.5 there, and makes you kind of wonder if that field goal wasn't missed or if that interception didn't have that penalty, what would happen. But of course, you can make a lot of excuses up of why the man got you, and he got both of us. So with that, I guess we should talk about the team that we cover now.
Yeah, and just as a heads up, a little later in the show, we'll have our Browns beat writer on. That's Scott Petrak. He writes for the Chronicle Chronicle-Telegram, the Medina Gazette, and you can find his work at brownzone.com. Follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak, and that's Petrak. We'll talk to him a little bit later in the show and preview the Browns' 2020 season. But to bring it back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, as they are closing in on their Monday night matchup against the Giants, we'll talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their kind of preview and expectations more in depth on Monday's show. But I do want to start, Dave, with the injury report, and 2 names popped up on it for Pittsburgh yesterday as their first injury report came out because they are playing Monday night. And one name was expected, one name a little less so, David DeCastro and Deontay Johnson not practicing. DeCastro officially listed with a knee injury, was termed lower body prior to yesterday's injury report, and Deontay Johnson with a foot. So DeCastro reportedly is not going to play Monday, not been confirmed by the team. And Deontay Johnson, he hopefully gets healthy quickly here.
Makes you wonder if DeCastro, because he hasn't been seen, got a little snip done or something,
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know for sure, probably not. But I think we talked about this the other day. The fact that they didn't throw him on IR at the start of the regular season, I think is some positivity when it comes to there. I think that's the most optimistic thing there. I think we both agree that it's would be a little bit too optimistic to think that he's going to play in week 1, and we'll obviously see what happens in the second week there. And I think look, I can put my tinfoil hat maybe back in the drawer here for right now, because Stefan Wisniewski was not on the injury report. That's obviously a positive, and I think in so many words Zach Banner let it kind of agreed to the fact that Wisniewski was going to be starting next to him on the right side of that line. Once again, not a big surprise, but just confirmation there now. And as you mentioned, Deontay Johnson with the foot injury, we'll have to see how this thing progresses with him. They did only obviously keep 5 wide receivers in total, Ray McLeod being one of those on the 53. That doesn't give you a lot of security there if a guy like that was going to miss time, and not that you can read too much into what some of these guys put up on their social media accounts, but kind of, Deontay had a picture of him with the 100 on it on IG today, so maybe a little bit of encouragement there. Hopefully he's able to practice and play to some degree come Monday, and as I'm sitting here right now, I would bet on that being the case. But once again, this is a guy in Deontay Johnson that, kind of banged up, or not kind of to it, was banged up most of his rookie season. To his credit, he played through it. But boy, you just hate to see a guy that had the off-season surgery and all like that start on the wrong note, when it comes to being on the injury report in week 1.
Especially in just trying to gain chemistry and timing with Ben, because those guys just have really not worked at all. Obviously, last year Johnson was a backup by the time he ascended in the starting lineup. Ben was done for the year. He had the calf injury earlier in training camp. Now it's the foot. Hopefully those two things aren't related. In terms of the calf, did something to the foot because of the way he was compensating. I'm speculating here wildly, but the point is, there's been a lot of nagging small stuff with Johnson that is annoying, I'm sure, for him and for the team. My guess is he'll play Monday. Today's injury report will be a little bit more telling to the odds on that and the optimism of that, but just disappointing that he can't get those really valuable reps with Big Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we talked about during a few weeks ago, he's been on the field together with Ben 20-something snaps, I think, in those first 2 or 1.5 games last season there. And this is a guy that is going to be your X, and it'd be nice to have him out there and healthy right from the start. So we'll obviously see what happens with the injury report on Friday, the second one of the week. The final one of the week will be on Friday. But barring him taking a step backwards, obviously I would expect him to play. But with that, it certainly sounds like rookie Chase Claypool might see the field a little bit more than what I originally thought. Maybe you originally thought as well too. And Claypool, guy that all the reports were kind of glowing, if you will, coming throughout training camp, or for a guy that's kind of a testament to this truncated offseason and all, and his development, quick and all like that, regardless of what happens with Johnson, I'm guessing they're going to get a guy like Claypool out there after all, about, 15 to 20 snaps maybe.
And that's what Randy Fichtner told the media, talking to them yesterday, saying, "quote Chase is unique physically for the position. I think to his credit, he did the necessary things in the offseason, regardless of what. He didn't get the chance to do it with us, but he did talk about it. Quote: he came in awesome shape. His body hasn't failed, and his mind hasn't failed him because of conditioning. So yeah, I think that is the benefit of a mature guy getting a senior, another year older, another year wiser, a little bit more ready than an underclassman for the NFL. And yeah, I think we'll see a role for him. I agree, maybe in that 10 to 15 snap range. And if Johnson misses, then that door really flies open for Claypool to see some serious playing time.
Who are you gonna, if Johnson misses time? Who's gonna be you gonna move Juju over there or what?
Yeah, I think Juju's really the only candidate you have right now.
I would agree as well too. I see some people speculating that maybe Claypool, but I just don't see him as a ideal fit. Especially, look, I mean, you couldn't pile his plate too big, no matter how smart he is during training camp there. So you would think a guy like Juju would move over and be your X, and then
who moves in the slot though? Claypool? Yeah. Does he go to this? I mean, how much reps has Claypool had in the slot? We don't know, but that's a valid question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know. Maybe put Eric Ebron out there.
Yeah, honestly, I was just thinking that. You probably just do that.
You know, that would probably be the most. I mean, look, him and Jalen Samuels, both with their abilities and the numbers that they've kept, and with us, I think you would agree. We would be surprised if a wide receiver is. I mean, I guess they could because of the whole 55-man roster thing, which we'll talk about here a little bit later in the show. Again, got some clarification on some stuff with that. But even if you did promote, let's say, a guy like Deion Kane, that's going to be break glass in an emergency, I would think, kind of situation. I would think some combination of being able to use a guy like Eric Ebron, more obviously, and then a guy occasionally like Jalen Samuels in the slot, if you had to. That would be what I would be expecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right. Hopefully it doesn't come to that point. Hopefully Johnson can play. Again, my guess is that he will, but we'll find out, get a little bit more clarity on Friday's injury report for the Giants. Yesterday, the only player missing was linebacker Marcus Golden with an illness. Couple of Giants listed for illness. My antenna goes up a little bit more in this COVID era, though I don't know if that's related or not. So Giants seem to be relatively healthy from the current injury report, although they've lost a lot of guys in training camp with Xavier McKinney and obviously Nate Solder opted out, so they're missing some key pieces.
And the linebacker too, right?
Who was that?
Oh, I'm trying to remember who it was that they lost there at linebacker there, the Giants. I thought they did.
Yeah, I think there was somebody. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now. It sounds like you're looking that up. But yeah, the Giants, we'll talk about them more for Monday again. Usually we do that for a Friday show, but because of the Monday night game, we have some time here to discuss the Giants a little bit more. Did you find who that guy was?
No, but I know Blake Martinez is the guy that's going to fill in for, was it? I'll figure it out here in a minute.
Okay. Let's go to some of the Steelers players and coaches who talked to the media yesterday, and let's stick with the coordinator since I mentioned Randy Fichtner earlier. And Fichtner talking to the media, talking about Zach Banner starting at right tackle, and talking again about Chase Claypool and his maturation and how he's really been encouraged by his progress and some multiple tight end sets, kind of playing that up quite a bit.
David Mayo, that's it.
Okay, there you go. I thought overall with Fichtner, and it's something that Ben has said, and I think some multiple beat guys have said, just seeing an offense that's going to be more creative pre-snap, with more window dressing, with more pre-snap shifts and motions, and just trying to get defenses to respond on the fly, maybe get misaligned, not communicate well, have to be able to cover an extra gap and fill an extra gap on the fly. So I think that'll be the one stamp we'll see that Matt Canada will bring immediately for this offense is a lot more energy, a lot more tempo, a lot more going on before the snap of the football.
Do you think we'll see Ben under center a little bit?
A little, but he's been a shotgun quarterback for so long now, so I don't think that in principle is going to change a whole lot.
All right, and when we're talking about that, look, I mean, it's not like motion is anything new to this offense, but as far, a lot of the motions that we've seen have been just identification motions, half motions, or just regular move and settle type motions. How much more motion at the snap of the football is the bigger question. That's something that we haven't seen a lot of. These jet sweeps going across the going through the backfield, either orbit or just traditional kind of in front of the quarterback kind of stuff here before the football snapped, or as the football is snapped.
Just a lot of simple trades and just again, coverage ID type stuff, but not a lot on the fly. And I have a study for this, and I'll kind of wait to see how week 1 plays out and maybe post the results then. But in the 6 quarters they had with Ben last year, they only had 1 snap that had kind of on the fly type motion. And I think we're going to see that number spike pretty heavily, pretty noticeably, pretty early for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year.
And who is the guy that we're expecting to see most most frequently in those kind of motions?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it could be Juju. I mean, I think the goal is to not do it with just one guy. I think it's more of a conceptual scheme thing than it is just an individual type thing. I mean, it could be Connor. It could be a variety of guys. I think that you don't want to limit yourself to one player. You just want to look at the advantage it brings you schematically more so than just the individual.
Yeah, but I'm less fearful if it's a guy like Washington,
Well, if the defense can't respond correctly and you got him in the flat open, for example, I don't care who it is.
Obviously, as McFarland gets more up to speed, that's the ideal guy. I think that you can put in those kind of situations there. So one thing that we're doing with our charting a little bit different this year is we're going to be being more cognizant and on a play-by-play basis to charting that stuff and whether or not the player has settled pre-snap, who the player is in motion, whether or not he's settled that snap. Those kind of things, so we can easily kind of sort that data. I mean, right out of the chute, I know that's one of the things I'm going to right away, right, Alex? You probably as well in the first couple of weeks to see how much of this, not so much the shifts, but the motion at the snap of the football.
Right. Like not all motions are created equal. There are some that are much more up. I mean, we all watched the Chiefs last night. We saw what they do motion. It's not what you see in Pittsburgh. So while the Steelers now have the percentages posted whenever the time comes, I mean, have maybe a decent amount of motion. They weren't the worst in football. It wasn't some of the up-tempo stuff and some of the really creative things that we're seeing in today's NFL. Another guy, Deontay Johnson, assuming he's healthy. Another guy that you could use in kind of those motion situations that gets him on the fly, gets him moving. But again, I think there's just a schematic element to it. That's kind of what Randy Fichtner was talking about.
And we never saw, with Antonio Brown that much. We never saw. I mean, he was always pretty much releasing and going. We didn't see.
Yeah, but they had that. Remember, they had that 2-point play where they would run him back and forth and then give it in the flat, and that's the stuff that I want to see from this offense consistently.
Right, and we didn't see hardly any of that, especially with a guy like Antonio. Especially later in his time in Pittsburgh.
Right. Anything else from Randy Fichtner you wanted to touch on that he talked about?
He did talk about Claypool, and you've already covered that. The progress he's seen about Zach Banner, who, by the way, it shouldn't be a secret by now. Zach Banner is going to be this team's starting right tackle, and I guess we can kind of get into that at some point here. But I don't think we're going to see Zach Banner catch any passes. I think he's probably fine with that based on the decision of him being the starter. And look, I mean, it is what it is. It's his job. It's his job to lose right now, and got a high standard. I think when it comes there, and I don't think they will be afraid to give Banner the hook. And I think Banner is well aware of that as well too.
Sure. I mean, I don't think there's necessarily, long-term job security out of the gate, but, it's a guy that has just won basically every battle he's been put in Pittsburgh, whether that was trying to just make the team in 2018, coming in literally 2 days before camp ended, to beating out a core 4 for that 6th offensive lineman last year, to beating out a core 4 again for the right tackle job this year. So this is a guy that's very battle-tested and typically wins those. And he talked to the media yesterday, and of course we know Banner for his personality and fun-loving side, and I definitely appreciate and respect that. But you could tell his game face is on. This is serious for him. This is not about kneel-down blocks or reporting eligible or any of that, fun stuff for the moment at least. It's now about being a starting right tackle in the NFL and protecting your franchise quarterback coming off elbow surgery, and you can definitely, again, appreciate the seriousness of which Banner takes that.
Was that not one of the best interviews you've probably seen, at least this offseason for sure, when it comes to a player? I thought he was very open and honest, and you're right. It was. You could kind of see that wasn't the kind of the joke around kind of Zach Banner, And
I mean, there was a little bit of that, but there was definitely like, okay, this is for real. Yeah, it was a great interview, and you said it well. Banner is very open and honest about his story and basically just coming back from nearly falling out of football. And it's always good to hear from him.
And I'm a little bit surprised. I thought maybe Okorafor because of his past. And look, you want to talk about a fire being lit up under somebody right now? It's him, because this guy now has become what's going to happen to me, after this season. I mean, he's obviously going to be your guy and your first guy off the bench here and all like that. But the shot has been fired at him. And look, Banner's got the pedigree and finally now and he's a huge human on top of it. Man, this team's got 6'9" and 6'8" tackles in Villanueva and Banner. That's got to be the biggest tackle combo in the league, right?
I'm sure it's up there. I'm trying to think about like Oakland or something. I don't know what Donald Penn's doing, but yeah, I mean it's definitely two big dudes to tackle, no doubt about that.
And I think one of the positives stemming back to what Banner has done in the past as being that jumbo kind of tight end. We saw last year times of him using not only that strength but that athleticism of his. Now, I thought Banner did a good job of talking about the differences and how they're two totally different positions and how you prepare and all like that. But his footwork seemed a lot better last season, and I think that'll play in his favor. And look, it doesn't hurt that he had to go against T.J. Watt all through training camp and all, and that sharpening iron. Hate to use the cliche, but that's what it was. That'll certainly help. That'll help them sort out that position real quick through training camp, I believe. So we'll just sit back, wait, and watch now.
Yeah, and the big thing for Banner, it's obvious to say, coming from that jumbo tight end that was coming in a lot of run-heavy situations, run-heavy personnel, but he only pass protected on 15.9% of his snaps last season. That number is going to go way up as the right tackle, and obviously your footwork, your sets, even just lining up, on-ball kind of stuff is going to be different for him. And this is his first career start at right tackle in the NFL. He has not started a game at tackle since the Rose Bowl in 2016. I think it was January 2017, and that was at left tackle when they beat Penn State. So kudos to him. But obviously his journey and his goals for the year are far from over.
He looks a lot different too, boy. I mean, the measurables obviously. What did he say? He's like 320. What did he say he is now? 325 or?
I think that was his goal. I don't know if he had gotten there yet. He's probably around there.
Okay, but
what was he at the combine? I forget his measurement.
I just put it up there on my. Hold on a minute here. I'll pull it up for you.
I saw that. I think 354, 364. I think is what he weighed in at Indy, somewhere around there. He got up to about 420 at his peak. I think that was in Cleveland, I believe, and now he's down about 100 pounds, which is the reason why he's where he is right now.
I'm looking at his combine measurements now that we tabulated. 6083. That's a large human. 353 at the combine.
Yeah, and his dad, Lincoln Kennedy, was a big dude. Yeah. So 30, he runs in the family.
34 7/8 inch reach.
Yeah, the concern there is just dealing with speed rushes. Obviously, tackles know or pass rushers know they're not going to really win inside a whole lot without at least setting up the outside first. And so can you defend that speed rush, shut that down? The length and size will help, but he is vulnerable to getting beat around the edge. So that'll be the biggest thing for him. And if he loses the edge, then you overcompensate, and then you start allowing the inside. So that's the big hurdle necessarily for Zach Banner to try to overcome.
How surprised are you that he won a job?
Slightly, because I did give Okorafor the slight edge, but I really said this was a toss-up. And looking back again, thinking that all the battles that Banner has won, all the things I just outlined since he's become a Steeler, I'm not super shocked by, because when this dude's been in a battle, whether that's making a roster, getting a hat, winning this battle, he's come out on top. So I'm not shocked by it.
All right, Randy Fichtner finished out talking. How many different ways are they going to ask these two tight end questions this offseason?
People are acting like this is some sort of new age technology that the Steelers are just finding.
And look. I mean, I know they got to say the right things and all like that. And look, I do think we're going to obviously see two tight end personnel groupings, and especially look, you might have to do it a little bit more in week one anyway. If you don't have a guy like Deontay Johnson, maybe you're going a little bit bigger bodies out there with Juju and Claypool on some snaps there. Because look, I mean, if there's one thing we know Claypool can do that he's not afraid to do is dig out the safeties, as the old Richard Mann used to say. What a great line that was, dig out the safeties. Maybe we'll see that kind of stuff. I until I see it and I see it work to my satisfaction, Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald on the field and running out of that successfully. That's what I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, well, again, I think it's about being creative with how you align it. If you just line them straight up, 3-point stance, inline tight ends, you're going to have some issues. But if you can get creative with how you displace the linebackers and lighten the box that way and effectively block somebody by just removing them from the box, then that's when you're going to see success in the run game.
And not asking Ebron to do much. You don't want to just have him stand up and block a base D in.
No.
You want him, washing down inside or next level, just kind of using that big body of his as a shield more than anything. To expect him to be, I would expect Vance McDonald to be on be strong, more times than not.
Yeah, leverage and angles is Ebron's advantage in the run game. That's how you got to scheme it up whenever you do have him block more traditionally like a tight end. So we'll see. We'll definitely be keeping track of that. Keith Butler, defensive coordinator, also spoke to the media and talked about Chris Wormley and how he could be used. And I'll give Butler credit here for just being honest and saying, quote, I wish we had seen more, no doubt. Some things you can do something about, some things you can't. And this is one of those things that we can't do anything about. He says we have seen enough that he should be able to help us and spell us at times with those two guys that we have inside. So I don't know if that's a reference to nose tackle or reference just to the rotation overall for the D-line. But yeah, I'm glad Wormley's healthy right now. Not on the injury report, but another guy that missed a decent amount of time during training camp.
The way I took that quote, him saying, we have seen enough that he should be able to help us and spell us at times with those two guys that we have inside, Tyson Alualu. I took that as meaning we can use Tyson to help spell Hayward into it.
Right.
I didn't take it the other way around with Wormley spelling Alulu in the middle.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Of course, I didn't hear it, but but then he did follow that talking about says sometimes it's going to be. I don't know. I like Keith giving this part away. I think and Keith's normally good about not saying too much, but he says in what we are doing to end up running in terms of our defense. Sometimes it is going to be what we call an Okie defense, which is obviously your three defensive linemen. And sometimes it's going to be the sub-package defense. It's probably going to be sub-package defense for the most part because of what we think they're going to do, but we are prepared in case get anything else. Obviously, that's probably more of a reference that you want to keep a lot of athleticism on that field because of guys like Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, if they're expecting a lot of 11 personnel, 3 receiver sets, then you're going to be in your sub-package. I mean, you're in your sub-package the majority of the time in any given game, just the structure of the way the NFL is today. So I don't think that's giving away any state secrets there.
Right, and when you look at their depth chart overall and the kind of tight end that they have, their primary tight end in Ingram, who's more, I mean, that Ingram's more Ebron than Ingram is McDonald. And to me, they're other. How much do you know about Caden Smith?
That's a Stanford kid, pretty big. I think more of a blocker type of guy. I don't know too terribly much about him though.
Yeah, in other words, we don't expect to see that offense go large that often, right?
Right. I mean, the receivers, they got Golden Tate and Darius Slayton. So, I mean, I'll have to get more into some Giants tape and some Cowboys tape, to be honest, because that'll be kind of where you look at things schematically. But if they're, you're just responding to their personnel, basically. Right. If they're going to be in 11, you're going to be in nickel. If they're going to be in a couple tight ends, you're going to be in your base.
All right. What else did Butler say caught your eye? Obviously talked about him and Minkah both talked about Sean Davis coming back in and the fact that he knows the scheme is helpful, yada, yada. I don't think we learn anything, huge when it comes to that aspect of it. Talked about having Watt and Dupree and having Stephon Tuitt. But what, I mean, it's almost like you got a free player, and Stephon Tuitt. And we've obviously talked about that quite a bit because Man, when Tua went down last season in week, when was it, 5 or 6, with that injury, you can make an argument that that guy was headed to be the team MVP. I don't know if that it would necessarily turned out that way with Watt and all, but I mean, you're definitely and hat tip to Tyson Alulu, as I've said. If there's one guy that really surprised me with his play last year was and being consistent, it was Tyson Alu. But with that said, Tyson Alu is not Stephon Tuitt. And when you lose a guy like Javon Hargrave during the offseason and you get a guy back in Stephon Tuitt, it makes that defense that much better.
Yeah, 100%. That is a good trade-off in that sense of it. Tua was, to me, just the best player in that defense before getting hurt very early into that Week 6 game against the Chargers. And to have him back paired with Hayward, it's just going to give you a very dynamic duo along the interior.
Butler specifically about Tua said he looks good. He looks like he did before he got hurt. Hallelujah. Now, hopefully, Keith didn't say hallelujah, but you can envision him saying something like that.
Yeehaw would be more of Keith Butler speak.
Or dadgummit. But Keith goes on to say, hopefully he plays as well as he did last year before he got hurt. I think he will. So that's some good stuff when it comes to him. Asked about the comfort level with the backups at inside linebacker. Probably the $1 million question that Keith Butler was asked.
Yeah, he says he thinks that, UG3 and Marcus Allen are going to be okay, and those guys are still growing, and that's to be expected, a couple of young guys, and definitely seems like Allen's going to get some potential more looks at inside linebacker in terms of where he practices and meeting rooms and things like that. But again, I think that the caution or the context that's worth pointing out is in this era of sub-package football and DBs playing close to the line of scrimmage, we're seeing Allen move down to inside linebacker. You don't want to think about inside linebacker depth as just next man up on a depth chart, because you could spin a Marcus Allen down, a Terrell Edmonds, a Sean Davis potentially. We've seen that happen before with Morgan Burnett. I think about, 2013 when Larry Foote went down in week 1. Troy played a lot of that dimebacker type role because they had Vince Williams as a rookie 6-round guy that couldn't play every single snap, every single situation. So the evolution of defenses in sub-package football have kind of given you more options to play inside linebacker. And Keith Butler basically said that inside linebacker is almost obsolete. So that kind of tells you where his head's at.
All right. Who do you expect to be the first man, off the bench there, should they need it?
Well, I think there's a Mac and a Buck question, because I think, UG3's been more of the Mac backup. That's to Devin Bush, and Spillane/Allen maybe more of the Buck type, and if to Vince Williams, and if Williams went down, then you may play one of those DBs. So I don't know for sure. It may depend on what part of the season that comes on. If it's early in the year and UG3 is not ready, they're not totally comfortable with him, they may do something else. So I don't know. I think it is a bit of an unknown, but I think you have some options there.
I also look forward to possibly seeing this team being able to some way, shape, or form, especially starting right out of the chute here, trying to get guys like Tuitt and Hayward a couple breather snaps more so than they've done the past couple of years. I know it's tough, but man, it would be great to not kind of wear those dudes out. Especially if this team can get some leads later in games, get Alua, because Wormley's still basically, you might as well consider him still in training camp mode right now.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it'd be nice to be able to get him some snaps here and there, to get him up to speed.
And I just think in general, and Tomlin's touched on this, and it's kind of obvious, you're going to just see more rotation, offense and defense, because it's no preseason. You're coming in these unusual circumstances, and guys aren't really at that conditioning level yet to play 90% of the time. So the more rotations you can do to keep guys fresh, to keep their conditioning levels up, it's probably going to be something that you see quite a bit more the first couple weeks of the season as guys kind of get their legs under them.
Worst case scenario Monday night is it's a close game and it goes into overtime.
Right, and then you're on a short week.
On a short week and all like that. That's the single worst case scenario I think that could happen Monday night. Hopefully they jump on them. Hopefully this defense is able to just basically just pin their ears back for most of the fourth quarter there, and then in turn you get guys like Watt and Dupree and Hayward and Tuitt off the field a little bit.
Yeah, because it's going to be a physical game. The Giants are going to want to come out ball control, physical, run game like that. It's going to be their MO, and Barkley's a a load to try to take down. And so I loathe the Monday night opener for these teams because you don't get the advantage of having that long week before, and now you're on a short week going into week 2, and that's just kind of a unfortunate situation to be in.
And if there wasn't enough unknown, and we'll obviously dive deeper into this on Monday, I mean, you got new head coach over there. You got new offensive coordinator. You got still in the innings, not a ton of tape still on a guy like Daniel Jones. So you got a little bit higher level of not knowing, of surprise aspect on their side that are going to make you kind of fill it out as you go along in this game.
Right, and I think Minkah Fitzpatrick talked about that he's watching Cowboys tape, they're watching Giants tape because you got to try to get both. I think they were watching some Patriots tape, some Packers tape. They're just kind of all over the place, just trying to kind of piecemeal this together because you just can't watch the Giants of last year and expect to see that. The personnel is largely the same, but obviously coaching staff is totally different with Joe Judge and Mark Colombo, the offensive line coach, Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator. They got Freddie Kitchens as the tight end coach. I mean, it's a whole new coaching staff, obviously, in New York. So you can't just watch the Giants last year and expect that that's what you're going to see Monday night because it's not.
All right, where do we go to from here? Where do we go from here now?
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna get out of that rabbit hole real quick.
That's way before your time.
Everything, yeah. All right. Any other player interviews that you wanted to discuss and talk about?
I think did we get most of them or no?
I think we got most of them. Minkah did talk again, talking about watching a bunch of different tape. Anything else that Minkah said?
Minkah talks back. Minkah just talks in circles. It seems like I don't think we're ever going to get anything real meaningful. He's learned it already and learned the game. And I don't think he lets loose to too much information. I thought we covered the Banner interview mostly pretty good. So yeah, I think we can move on from that.
All right, Dave. Let's talk to our friend Scott Petrak. He writes for the Chronicle Telegram and Medina Gazette and covers the Browns for BrownZone.com. So we'll get a preview of the 2020 Cleveland Browns and be back in a moment.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday, week 1 of the NFL season, and as we've been doing, we've been touring around the AFC North Division, talking to the beat writers who cover the teams closely, getting previews of those teams for the 2020 season. We've done the Ravens, we've done the Bengals, and now today we're going over to Cleveland, and that means we're going to have our buddy Scott Petrak back on. Scott covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram and the Medina Gazette. You can find him on the Twitter machine at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. He's very popular with our listeners. They love it when we have him on talking about the Browns. You can find all of his work. Go to brownzone.com. Brownzone.com. Scott, happy Friday and welcome back to the Terrible Podcast.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Man, it seems like forever since we've when we talked to you, and the world's changed, and obviously no off season, no training camps, no OTAs, and right into training camps, and obviously the Browns have a new coaching staff they're breaking in. Let's start first, Scott, with kind of a 30,000-foot look at the 2020 Cleveland Browns. Kind of briefly take us through what's transpired through the off season here, a couple of the key ads, and tell us about the new coaching staff on top of it.
Sure. They signed, they were pretty active right away in free agency. They signed Jack Conklin to play right tackle, gave him a 3-year, $42 million deal. They signed Austin Hooper, the Pro Bowl tight end from the Falcons, for 4 years and $42 million. Brought in Case Keenum to be the veteran backup to Baker Mayfield. He has experience with the new coach, Kevin Stefanski. Drafted Jedrick Wills, the tackle out of Alabama, number 10, to play left tackle. He's making the conversion from the right side to the left side. And their second-round pick, safety Grant Delpit out of LSU, ruptured his Achilles during camp, so he's done for the year. So that was a blow. But they improved the roster. They signed some other veterans on defense to 1-year contracts. They lost a couple linebackers, Christian Kirksey and Joe Schobert. But their offense should be much improved. You bulked up the line. You added, tight end in Austin Hooper. You brought back Kareem Hunt as your number 2 running back, and then he got an extension this week. So things were looking really good. And then you had the crazy offseason, and I think of you look at everybody's affected around the league by not having an off-season program and OTAs and minicamps. But I think the Browns were hurt worse than many teams because new coach, new offensive system, new defensive system, relatively young team, young quarterback who's on his third head coach in 3 seasons. So it's going to be really interesting to me is how they handle things early in the year, because it felt to me watching training camp practices that the first team offense was rocky, and that included quarterback Baker Mayfield. And I think it's safe to attribute a lot of that to the fact that they just didn't have an offseason to work on installing the new system.
When you look, how has Willis been settling in there? Obviously, a pedigree guy out of the University of Alabama, and he's going to be next to a very experienced guy in Joel Bitonio on the line. J.C. Treader been around a while too. I mean, is he set? Is there any fears there? I mean, he comes off as a smart kid. Is he settled in kind of quickly there?
Well, he is a smart kid, and I like his athleticism. But I'll say this, moving from the right side to the left side, I think he's the player on the Browns most negatively affected by not having any of that offseason stuff. No rookie minicamps, no preseason games. This guy's never taken a live rep at left tackle except for the Browns did like 1/4 of a scrimmage at the stadium a couple of weeks ago. And that's it. So I thought he struggled in camp. Not that I'm, Mr. O-line expert, but I noticed him getting beat multiple times. The Browns haven't wavered in their plan. He's going to be the guy. They don't have another option. And he's your guy week 1, and you just hope that the coaching staff can help him enough early. He gains comfort at that position and then gets better as the season goes on. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on your right tackle, but that's why they're playing Jack Conklin the big bucks. So Conklin better be able to hold up on the right side by himself, and then you slide the protection, you chip with the back or tight end on the left side, because I don't think you can expect Wills to come in and feel great week 1, and it's a tough matchup. Obviously, they're playing the Ravens and Calais Campbell, so you better help the young kid out.
And when you look at you mentioned obviously with Baker Mayfield, yet another coach for him here. Got an offensive minded one in Kevin Stefanski there. What are some of the most notable changes? And I know it's been kind of tough on you guys and what you can see and what you can report there with the media restrictions and the access and all like that. But what are some of the most notable changes they have? Getting the ball out. Having Mayfield get the ball out quicker, those kind of things. Just talk a little bit about what you expect to see out of what Stefanski's bringing to the offense there.
Sure. Yeah. We were actually able to see a decent. We were allowed to watch every training camp practice, so that was good. They only shut it down the last week and a half.
We saw the video. They make us so jealous. I'd tune in over there and see some of the scrimmages and some of the open portion of practice. It made us jealous over here because they didn't give us anything over here.
Yeah, that's rough. That would have been really rough. Now we weren't super close. We had to stand a mile away. But
right.
Anyway, what you see is it's going to look like the Kyle Shanahan system in San Francisco. And the Mike Shanahan system that he ran in Denver and Washington. And Gary Kubiak picked up and ran in Houston, Denver and Houston. Because Stefanski was with Gary Kubiak last year, and that was Stefanski's first year as a full-time play caller. And as he went to install his offense for the first time, the Vikings hired Gary Kubiak. And Stefanski took in a lot of the Kubiak system. So it's the wide zone scheme, and then it's the play action based off the wide zone scheme, and it's the bootlegs, and it's the misdirections. So when we're watching a practice, you see a lot of, they hand off to the right, and then they fake the handoff to the right, Baker rolls left, and you have a tight end cutting kind of across the green, against the green. Or you see him roll left, stop, and you have a tight end releasing down the right side. And those are the kind of things that you're going to see a bunch. And I keep going back to the Browns ran that system with Kyle Shanahan in 2014 and had a good amount of success, right? That's when they got off to the great start. Then you had the whole Johnny Manziel in for Brian Hoyer disaster.
Right.
But we've seen how that system can work. We've seen if you base it in the run game, right? That's that helps your play action. If you commit to the run game, which Kevin Stefanski as a play caller ran it more than he threw it in Minnesota last year. You see a bunch of multiple tight end sets, right? He ran 50% of the time, 57% of the time last year. They ran at least 2 tight ends. He brought in a fullback. So it's going to be interesting because they have playmakers, right? They have 5 big-time playmakers, Chubb, Hunt, Beckham, Landry, and Hooper. How are you going to get all these guys the ball? And how do you do it when, well, you want to run 2 tight ends, but you got these 2 weapons on the outside and you get these 2 big-time backs in your backfield? That's what I'm most interested to see is how Stefanski utilizes all those playmakers, because I think that's what gives the Browns a chance, is having all those skill guys.
Scott, broadening out from Stefanski, the schematic element of it, but just to the manager and the role of a head coach, how has he handled the pandemic? For example, we talked to a Bengals beat writer earlier this week. He said Zach Taylor was kind of having a mock Zoom huddle with Joe Burrow. Just what are some of the things Stefanski has tried to do to overcome all the time lost and all the craziness of this pandemic?
Yeah, that's a good question. He's really smart, right? And that's part of the Browns setup. He's an Ivy League guy, went to Penn. New GM Andrew Berry went to Harvard. Paul DePodesta, the chief strategy officer, went to Harvard, right? So they're loaded in. They're all smart guys. And I do think that helped not only Stefanski, but the entire organization when it came to dealing with the uniqueness of this offseason, whether it was the remote draft, whether it was, remote free agency, and then you get into the virtual offseason. I think Stefanski was more capable of handling that than many previous Browns coaches. So I liked just his attitude and the no excuses thing that he took. Specifically, they had all their players tape their workouts and send them to the coaches. And according to Stefanski, not every team was doing that, right? Some teams were lax about how they had their offseason programs. He had Jedrick Wills would be working on his footwork. It would be recorded, and he would send it in to Bill Callahan, the line coach. The kicker would be out kicking and send it in, right? And then another thing that he's kind of proud of is they're trying to build chemistry. And it's a new team, new staff, figuring out a way to do that when you're not in the locker room for all that time. So he came up with this thing called 4 H's, and I forget what all the H's are. It's heroes and heartbreak and those kinds of things. And he would have guys stand up in front of the team and virtually and kind of tell their life story with these 4 kind of tenets. And, from talking to players and coaches, that went over well. It was a way to get to know each other when you're miles apart.
Wow, that's a fantastic answer. Thank you for that insight. You mentioned all the weapons they have, and obviously the person driving all these weapons is Baker Mayfield, and it's fair to say he took a bit of a step back last year, at least from what was expected from him, and that's for a lot of reasons, some of it out of his control and the head coaching situation and lack of maybe talent or cohesion around him. But what was the biggest reason why Mayfield personally had issues last year, and do you think he's corrected some of those issues heading into 2020?
I mean, that's $1 million question because, I mentioned all those playmakers, and you need the quarterback to get them all the ball. Right. And to me, if Baker plays like a top, whatever it is it top 10, top 12, top 15 quarterback, this team has a chance to be successful. I thought Baker's biggest issues last year were accuracy. I mean, he came out of Oklahoma with the reputation that was his biggest strength was accuracy. He completed 70% of his passes his final 2 years at Oklahoma. Well, he dipped under 60% last year, ranked 31st in the league. He also was 31st with 21 interceptions. So, and it wasn't just timing with receivers. That played a part of it. Odell, Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, they both had injuries that needed off-season surgery, so they didn't practice a bunch. And that contributed to the incompletions. But I just thought Baker missed throws high and wide. And we could see that in training camp a year ago. I haven't seen it completely cleaned up in training camp. I think part of that could be learning the new system. But he needs to throw it better. It's that simple. That's number one. Number two, I thought he got uncomfortable in the pocket early in the season, and that led to bad footwork. It led to him trying to leave the pocket too early, and instead of stepping up in the pocket like he did as a rookie, he would bail right, and that led to trouble, whether he threw an interception or whether the pressure just knew he was going that way. and could, follow him and sack him. Part of that was the line wasn't great. The right tackle and left tackle struggled last year, and those should be better with Conklin and Wills. But he needs to be better in those two areas. And I think I think those are the two biggest things. I will say that I think Stefanski's system fits well with what Baker does. Baker's good in play action. So it's set up for Baker to be good. Now it's up to him to be good.
You talk about all these weapons that this offense has. Obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. is one of them there, but he got that, and Steeler fans know it firsthand, that kind of personality there that we went through it last couple seasons with Antonio Brown. Is there a fear that you talk about how they're going to get spread the ball around to all these playmakers, and you got to wonder if this team gets off to any kind of slow start, and if Odell's not going to get the ball or not getting the ball enough, there's going to be a little bit of rumblings there. Is there a little bit of fear possibly of that happening, and then that kind of forcing Baker maybe to start forcing the ball where he doesn't need to?
Yeah, I think there's fear. I think there's fear there, and I think we saw it some last year. Now, it didn't help that, Freddie Kitchens, not to, pick on him because he's fired after 1 year, but there was a sense of dysfunction there. And there's a sense of, I don't think the players trusted the game plan and trusted the coach and trusted the play calls as the game went along, right? They were good early when the plays were scripted, and then things kind of fell out of whack after that. But yeah, I would agree that if the Browns are losing, I mean, that's, we keep asking guys about that. Or how are you going to be happy? You got all these guys. How are you going to keep everybody happy? And all the players say, well, if we win, we'll be happy. So the problem is if you lose early and Odell's not getting the ball, then does he grumble? And yeah, I would expect him to grumble. We heard it last year, and it was almost like, he and Jarvis Landry are so close. Jarvis would kind of say what Odell was thinking. Odell would say all the right things to us, and then Jarvis would kind of question the play calling. So you hope Stefanski handles that better. But I need to say that I think it's unfair to say Odell is like Antonio Brown. I mean, Odell's he courts drama, and there's no getting around that. And there's always something with Odell. But, and I've only been around him for a year now, but it doesn't seem to come from a dark place. I think guys like him enough. I think he's a likable guy. I think he's a smart guy. I don't think he's got evil inside him. I just think he likes to be center of attention, and that includes wanting the ball as much as possible.
When you flip over to the defensive side of football, obviously, Myles Garrett, premier pass rusher, one of the top ones in the NFL. Larry Ogunjobi, those two really seem to work well. Ogunjobi's given the Steelers a little bit of problems in the past in the interior there. Olivia Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, some good names in there. Not too familiar with what they're doing behind those guys. But when you look at the second level, I think that's where obviously Mack Wilson, former kind of, what was he, fifth round draft pick, I think, out of Alabama there, and he's already dealing with an injury there, and B.J. Goodson, having to come in and do what he's doing. It seems like, and Taki, what a great name, but tell us a little bit about the second level, because I think we're all kind of familiar with the front line of this defense and how it's expected to be able to get after the quarterback, but it seems like there might be some issues at the second level there at the linebacking core.
Yeah, you nailed it. They lost Joe Schobert. They let him walk away in free agency.
What a guy that was, man! Holy moly, right. That guy just destroyed the Steelers in that one game. But go ahead.
Well, right. He had a huge game, right? He had a huge game the last time they played, or one of the times they played. So they let him walk away. They just said it wasn't worth the whatever he was going to get on the open market, whether it wound up being 8 or 10 or 11, whatever it was, a year. So they let him walk away. And there was, I think fans around Cleveland felt different ways about that. They cut Christian Kirksey, who had injury issues, but when he was healthy, was a legitimate player in this league. Now, he was making a bunch of money, so I understand that decision. But the fact is, those are your two best linebackers. And then you return and you have Mack Wilson as your best linebacker, and he gets hurt. So, he's going to miss at least the first couple of weeks. So I have huge concerns about linebacker. They brought in B.J. Goodson, kind of a journeyman. They have Taki, who only started one game as a rookie. And then they have third-round pick rookie Jacob Phillips out of LSU. And not only there's not a ton of experience there outside of Goodson, you're asking guys to do things they haven't done in the past. Goodson has never been an every down linebacker.
Right.
He's a run guy. And all of a sudden he's going to be out there every snap because Mac Wilson's not. And even if Mac were, maybe he'd be out there too. Taki's more of a thumper than a coverage guy. Jacob Phillips wasn't really a coverage guy either at LSU. So you're asking these three guys to come in, and all of a sudden Sunday they're going to be asked to cover Mark Andrews while they're trying to stop Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson. So I have big concerns about the linebackers, and you're right. It's going to come down to the front four better dominate because there's too many questions in that middle part of the defense.
And there's still, speaking of injuries, there are still injury concerns in the secondary as well. Greedy Williams still out. I know Kevin Johnson had a freak liver injury at some point earlier in training camp. How healthy is this group for week one? And then specifically with the safeties, what can we expect from them? Because there's a lot of turnover there. You've gone from Peppers to Randall to, who do you have, Carlos Joseph this year? And Delpit got hurt. So what is the health of this group? And then what can we expect from the safeties in 2020?
Yeah, it's not ideal heading into week one. I guess the only thing about Sunday is the Ravens don't tend to throw it all over the field with, they don't spread you out, so maybe you don't need as many corners. Terrence Mitchell, he'll be fine stepping in for Greedy Williams. He's a veteran. They won't miss Greedy that much in the short term, but you need him back. Obviously, he's your second-round pick from a year ago. You need him to turn into the player you hope he would be. You love Denzel Ward on the other side as long as he stays healthy. But nickel's a concern. Kevin Johnson was going to be your nickelback, and he was counted on to be that, the former first-round pick, has a lacerated liver. He's not going to be ready for the opener. M.J. Stewart Jr., who flamed out quickly in Tampa Bay, a former second-round pick, was behind Johnson on the depth chart. Then he hurt a hamstring. He's back. I don't know if he'll play Sunday. If not, you have Tavier Thomas. So your depth is certainly in play there. And then you go to safety, and Delpit's a huge loss. He was going to be a versatile piece. They were going to use him all over the defense, dime, at the line, back. So they have Carl Joseph, like you mentioned. They brought in Andrew Sendejo, another veteran that has experience with the coaching staff. But I don't think they wanted Sendejo to be an every down starter. He's going to be that third guy. It was going to be Delpit and Joseph. So now you have Joseph, Sendejo, and then they traded for Ronnie Harrison of Jacksonville, and he'll work into that rotation. I think he'll eventually be the starter. But early on in the season, there's a lot of commotion in that back end.
Yeah, and then my last question for you, Scott, I'll turn it over to Dave. Just big picture, offense or defense, besides Wills, any rookies stand out this summer? I know it's hard to do so with all that time missed, but any other rookies that Steeler fans might be wanting to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I would keep an eye on Harrison Bryant, fourth-round tight end out of Florida Atlantic. He has jumped David Njoku to be the second tight end behind Austin Hooper.
Wow.
Yeah, now Njoku had a little wrist thing that kept him out for a little bit, but Bryant was just better. Now, physically, I don't think he's ready to, be an inline blocker, but he made a bunch of catches. So I think you'll see him split out a decent amount and catching some balls. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, a sixth-round receiver out of Michigan. I'm not sure where he fits because I don't think the Browns are going to use a third receiver a ton. And when they do, it could be Kareem Hunt. But I liked what I saw to Peoples-Jones in camp. You could see him return kicks, although they brought in free agent JoJo Natson. So I'm not sure if Peoples-Jones will get the kickoff duties or not. But if they had an injury, if Jarvis Landry isn't quite ready to play 100% of the snaps because he's coming off the hip surgery, you could see Peoples-Jones get a few reps at receiver, and I liked what I saw out of him.
You talk about possibly two tight end stats. Obviously, look, Austin Hooper, you pay him that kind of money, he's going to be out there. Harrison Bryant, I can't remember. I think I kind of referred to him quite a bit as being what did I call him, Alex?
A little T-Rex.
Yeah, little T-Rex. I think with those a little bit shorter arms. Who are because when we looked at the tape of him back pre-draft, I just wasn't. Look, he's great when you split him out and did a lot of damage there at I think Florida Atlantic that way more as a pass catcher. Who are going to be the two if they have two tight ends on the field? Who's going to be along with Austin Hooper out there?
Well, I do think Bryant will probably be the number two for the majority when they go number two. And then it'll be Njoku, who's a bigger body. They also brought back Steven Carlson, who had the big catch against you guys on the Thursday night game,
right.
Before all hell broke loose. But I was surprised. They cut Pharaoh Brown, who isn't much of a pass catcher, in my opinion, but was the biggest body. I thought he kind of fit. I thought he would have a role because you got Hooper, who's your guy. You got Bryant, who doesn't block much. You got Njoku, who you just still had because he was former number one pick. I thought Brown added something that Steven Carlson didn't, but they kept Carlson instead. So, I don't know if they're going to line up and pound you with those tight ends. They also have a fullback, so maybe when they go, hey, we know we're going to run the ball, they'll go with fullback Andy Janovich. But I do think you'll see Harrison Bryant play a good amount.
All right, tell us about the special teams real quick. Anything it sounds like JoJo probably going to get the first crack at this thing. Tell us about the special teams and who's the premier four teams player.
Yeah, they were good in special teams overall last year. Their coverage units are good under Mike Prefer. They didn't return anything. Like, their return game was horrible. So that's why you get Nats, and that's why you bring it down to Peoples-Jones. So the hope is there's a spark there. Seibert's back for second-year kicking. Should be fine. He was pretty good last year. They did sign Cody Parkey to the practice squad just kind of in a COVID emergency, and he's one of those four guys they protected in week one. Gillen's back, huge leg punter. They just need him to be more consistent. A guy watch out for is Kadero Hodge, is one of those four-unit guys. Was really good last year. Coaching staff loves him, and I think you could even see him get some reps as that third wideout ahead of Rashard Higgins. The coaching staff falls in love with him. He's a smart guy, big guy, physical. He's a name to keep an eye on. He won't have big numbers, but he's a guy to keep an eye on.
All right, and when you look at the 2020 Browns, Scott, what is? I mean, obviously, look. I mean, they went out, they spent some money, they got some talent on this team. What is the expectations of this team this year? Well, I mean, and where is the line where it's a huge disappointment for the Browns this season?
It's obviously the expectations aren't what they were a year ago, right? People were talking Super Bowl.
I had them making the playoffs in my prediction, and that went south. Yeah.
I mean, I went 10-6, and I thought I was being conservative, right? We had people going 12-4 around here, so that's gone. It's way down. I think the crazy offseason deflated expectations here and probably other places around the league. But I'll say that if they're not 8-8, and if they're not in the discussion as we go to November and December for a playoff team, right, in the hunt, then I think it's a disappointment because I think there's that much talent on especially the offensive side of the ball, and you can talk about the defensive front too. And I know ownership feels that way, right? When they were making all the changes, they were hiring a new coach, hiring a GM. Jimmy Haslam kept saying, hey, I talked to people around the league. They love our roster. So if you have that mentality, you're not going to be happy with another 6-10. So I do think there's some pressure on Kevin Stefanski, and I think 8-8 is kind of that line. If they get there, then I think you can consider the season a success. But it's not crazy to think that this team should go 9-7 with the talent it has.
And obviously, I mean, hopefully they would give him a mulligan. You don't expect him to be one and done, right?
Well, no, but I didn't expect Jasinski to be one and done. I didn't expect Freddie Kitchens to be one and done. But it does feel like there's an alignment here, and a good thing is that the people that hired Stefanski wanted Stefanski, and Jimmy Haslam loves those guys, Andrew Berry, Paul DePodesta, so it feels like there is an alignment here.
Scott, you're you're real objective, fair, and balanced and all when it comes to looking at this, and you've covered obviously the Browns and the AFC North for a while. What are your thoughts on the AFC North? What's going to be the pecking order, and what do you see happening in that division?
I can't get past the Ravens being really good again. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of weaknesses in Baltimore. Maybe Lamar takes a step back, but he works really hard, and he's probably going to get better as a passer. So I think the Ravens are the class of the division. I think it's them and the Chiefs fighting for the AFC title. And then I think Pittsburgh, if Big Ben stays healthy, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know.
Right.
If Big Ben stays healthy, I like Pittsburgh to go to the playoffs. So I think the Browns will be third in the division, and the question is, can they win enough and win enough inside the division to challenge Pittsburgh to be that second team.
What do you see ahead of time? You see the Pittsburgh and Cleveland splitting? Do you see a sweep by either side?
Yeah. No, I would go split. I mean, my thought would be, I think if you're the Browns, you look at it as, okay, sweep the Bengals, which starts Thursday night in week 2, split with the Steelers, and then hope for a split with the Ravens, but more likely than not, get swept by the Ravens and go 3-3 in the division.
All right. Well, we appreciate the time. I mean, you do a fantastic job with this. Once again, we're glad we can turn to you and get great previews on the Browns and all. And please set some time on your calendar for us to talk to us ahead of both of the meetings between the two teams this year. Obviously, the Browns, I think, get started with what? Right in the division, right? They get don't they get what? The Ravens and the Bengals right out of the chute?
Ravens, yeah. Ravens-Bengals, quick turnaround, Sunday and then Thursday night. So, yeah, we'll get a little bit of a gauge on that.
All right. Well, Scott, as always, we appreciate you joining us on the Terrible Podcast. And after we let you out of here, we'll make sure we recap the Twitter handle and all like that and get people sending to your direction. So we look forward to talking to you again when these two teams play each other.
Thank you, Scott.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, and welcome back again. Our thanks to Scott. Be sure to follow him at Scott Petrak, Petrak, over on Twitter. Writes for the Chronicle, Telegram, Medina Gazette, and BrownZone.com. And Dave, always great to have Scott back on the show.
Sure is. Well, we got a good slew of AFC North beat writers that we're going to be able to call on right now, and I've learned quite a bit about all three of these teams over the course of the last week here, and look forward to talking to those guys again ahead of the matchups again of the teams they cover against the Steelers.
Absolutely, always bringing a wealth of knowledge. All right, Dave, let's get into some of the details of some of the intricacies of the NFL this year. Some of the rule changes that we're still kind of getting adjusted to, and just so fans know, because you'll see some roster moves or potential roster moves that certainly will be different than any year in the past.
Yeah, let's step in some minutia.
There's a phrase for you. That'll lock the listeners in.
Absolutely. Look, I've been kind of wondering how this thing is going to work here and trying to get clarity as we go along. And I think ahead of last night's game, we got a little bit of that. And specifically when it comes to the 54th and 55th players, that can be on your roster on game days. Now, obviously, there's rules when it comes to dressing players. If you have 8 offensive linemen dressed for a game, then you can dress a total of 47, right? No, 48 players.
48, yeah, 46 to 48 if you have at least 8 offensive linemen active.
Right. So you have to have 8 offensive linemen dressed, and if you do, then you can maximize your game day roster to have 48 guys dressed. Now, you can have 55 guys on your roster come game day, but you don't necessarily have to you could still have 7 inactives, I guess, if you or actually it would have to be 7 inactives at that point, right?
Right. If you have 55 and you have 48, there's 7 inactives.
All right. Now, the whole thing is where do these extra 2 players come from, the 54 and 55? They obviously come from promotions from your practice squad is where most of them are going to come from. I suppose you could sign a guy on game day, I would think that you can, but regardless, the thing that I don't know yet is the game day moves relegated just to practice squad guys coming up.
I believe it is.
I
believe that's
the
the
number
only
one.
thing. Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes.
All right, now here's what we learned in the game Thursday night, or ahead of the game Thursday night. You can have game day activations. All right. I thought that maybe it had to follow along the same lines of what's been the case with practice squad player promotions, and that such a promotion would have to happen by 4:00 the day before the game. Well, that's not the case. And we saw the Houston Texans have what's being termed now, the official term for it is standard elevation from the practice squad. So those things can happen on the day of the game. All right. So that's one thing I think we've learned since the show the other day there. They only did it, and they only did it with one player. All right. So it would lead you to believe, I think, that unless it's probably going to be injury related or specifically special teams related, that we're probably not going to see as much of this as maybe, I don't know, you thought, I thought, whatever, when it comes to this. Knowing what you know now with this, are you expecting the Steelers to have any standard elevations on Monday?
I don't know if it's something I can really expect. I don't know if it's really something we can really expect on a given week unless there's some sort of obvious situation injury-wise where a guy really feels like it's 50-50. But I would not be surprised by it. I mean, it was Houston that elevated, right?
Right.
They were the road team. So, again, I think it's be more common for road teams to do it. Pittsburgh on the road week 1. I just wouldn't be shocked by it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think it would be prudent to do.
Hey, what's up, guys? Oh, my God. Why are you naked?
I'm hearing something in the background. Okay, I got that closed out there. It's going to be, look, what do you do if you're the road team, That's
what I'm saying. I think the road team's more likely to elevate those guys just to give them options in case, God forbid, something happens COVID-related.
Now, I guess the other question that I have, and I think someone threw this out on Twitter as well, too, is does this mean the team will take their entire practice squad with them on the road?
I would imagine you kind of know who the guys are going to be, so you may take 2 or 3 guys. In this case, maybe you just take one guy because you know there's an injury to one particular player and you just want to protect yourself. So that's a good question. And travel is obviously more of a headache if you're adding more guys to that and all the additional, I guess, risk you could say by having more people travel. But I don't think you would have to take your whole 16-man practice squad with you.
All right, it will be interesting to watch this play out now moving forward. It's going to make predicting, I think, inactives. We usually like to try to predict the inactives most definitely by 4 or not soon after 4 o'clock. The day before the game. I think that's going to make it a little bit tough when it comes to stuff like that because anything can happen in that final, 24 hours, if you will, that you probably didn't think, somebody comes down, test positive or something along those lines. So it is going to be an interesting aspect as far as that's concerned. But I'm going to go back to kind of the way I was leaning anyway ahead of all this. I don't think we're going to see as many activations as many people think.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I would take Corliss Waitman, my punter kicker, every single week, just in case something came up with one of my kickers or punters.
Would you take Duck with you?
Maybe for week 1, but I wouldn't do it every single week.
Okay, well, it's going to be
because you have at least 3 quarterbacks.
Okay, it's going.
If you had just 2, then maybe it would be different.
Okay, I got you. Going to be interesting to see how moving forward with this. But knowing what I know now. The thing is, now we're going to be sitting here on game days. Is there an activation? Kind of situation there. But we still, all that said, we still expect this team on a week in to week out basis to dress 48 players.
Yes, I imagine they're going to do that every single week.
All right, now with J.C. Hassenhauer now being on the 53, with DeCastro not looking like he's going to play, I think it's a safe bet that DeCastro be inactive. I think it'll be a safe bet that Dobbs is inactive there. Obviously now, unfortunately, I have to sit and wait and see about a guy like Deontay Johnson. Hopefully he's good to go. I'm betting on that happening, and I think we laid out few of the other ones there that we expect to be inactive as well on top of it there. So the only question is will this team have an activation on Monday game day?
Right,
and we'll once again, the rules associated with that is you can have the guy come from the practice squad twice throughout the season without having to make him go through waivers to get him back there. So you got to be kind of, you don't want to be willy-nilly with it, but if it's a guy that you're wanting, you're obviously wanting, hoping not to have to expose to waivers, you better make sure you're using up his times wisely there.
Right, because the third time you bring him up, he's now subject to waivers like a normal player would be.
Right. Let me make one other observation. Duke Johnson got injured, and I don't know the significance of that with the Houston Texans, but they better make sure they protect Wendell Smallwood every week as one of those 4 players on the practice squad that they're wanting to protect, because I have a feeling the moment that they don't, that guy is going to be gone.
Right, and you can protect players on a limited amount of times, correct? That's the thing I'm still confused on.
That is my understanding, is you can protect, you just have to declare every week, I think Tuesday, who the 4 are that you're going to protect. But I don't think there's a limit on the amount of times that you file for protection on a player from the practice squad.
You could, in theory, just protect Smallwood every single week to ensure that he doesn't get poached.
Yes. And I guess it would be under my understanding that you could technically trade a guy from your practice squad, I guess, if you wanted to.
Trade him?
Yeah, I guess technically you could probably do that if you wanted to.
I don't know. We'll brave new world for sure.
But
all right, Dave.
We'll learn as we go.
We are. You have some more details on the Cam Hayward deal?
Yeah, a few more details are coming out just by the sheer fact alone of what the NFL salary cap page moved down. It shows that indeed that roster bonus at $2.75 million roster bonus that Cam Hayward I believe gets today. That along with the $17.5 million signing bonus he received is one giant signing bonus. Is treated as a signing bonus. So his cap charge dropped by the $3.95 million this year. It also looks like, according to the numbers that Jerry Dulac put out, it looks like Cam Hayward's cap charge in 2021 will be just $14.55 million. All right, that's a little bit lower than what I was projecting it to potentially be. That means the cash flow not too terribly bad when it comes to the Steelers side in the second and third years, 2021, 2022, when it comes to Cameron Hayward. Now, the only thing I'm waiting to find out a huge detail is what are the roster bonuses exactly in 2021 and 2022. We know the total pay for, at least I think we know the total pay for Hayward next year, 2021, is $10.5 million. How much of that's base? How much is that roster bonus? It really doesn't matter. It's just getting the exact details right on that. Regardless of what that is, expect them to take a large chunk of that $10.5 million and turn it into a signing bonus to lower Cam's cap charge next year. All right. So that as soon as I get the firmer details on what the roster bonuses is, especially, we'll see if he has one in 2022 or not. Most definitely he's going to have one in 2021. That's really only the minor details. But it looks like, once again, that, look, Cam got good cash flow this year. $21.75 million in cash flow this year. Remember, he was scheduled to make $9.5 million only this year prior to this deal. So strong cash flow there. We'll have to see, or it looks like his cash flow by through 2021 is $32.25 million. So looks like the Steelers got a little bit of break when it comes to that, as they did through 2022, $43.25 million in cash flow with Cameron Hayward there. So that should bring everybody up to speed on that.
So overall, based on what you know about the deal, I know this term probably gets overused a bit too much, but you would consider this a team-friendly deal for the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not in year one. I mean, the expected cash flow was the expected cash flow right out of the chute. You got to make it worth a while for the older player to sign a deal like this. Scheduled to make $9.5 million. I mean, I think I had it right at about $21 million expected him to get. So a little bit heavy, if you will, slightly heavier on the first year cash flow, but on the second year, third year, eased up a little bit. I mean, is it a huge break? No, but I think it's eased up more on the team side, if you will, when it comes to second and third year cash flow on that. Once again, not huge, but and look, when you're looking at the cap concerns this team is going to have, specifically 2021, that's where the that's the big what if there, and I think the Steelers got a little bit of a needed break when it comes to that. And once again, assuming Cam Hayward stays healthy and has the kind of season that we expect him to have in 2020, they're going to restructure his money in 2021 come February or March anyway to help lower that cap number down. But it'll be less of a can kick, if you will, anyway, because of the 10.5 or whatever, a low kind of total amount of money that he's expected to have in 2021. So he did him a little bit of a favor there, I think.
Gotcha. Is there any other part of the deal you're still trying to get information or clarification on?
Just the roster bonuses, I think.
Okay.
Just firming down what exactly those roster bonus amounts are.
Okay. Gotcha.
And one other quick thing here, too, about Sean Davis. It ended up with Sean Davis, that's not a minimum salary benefit deal when it comes to him. And it's because of the contract that he signed with Washington and the money that he got from them, he did not qualify for that, A. B, on top of it, he did not get got to be careful, credited versus accrued. He did not get credit for a credited season last season because he was not on active roster for at least 3 weeks. Remember, he went down in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So had he been able to dress for one more game, then he would have got a credited season. That would have made a difference in what his minimum salary could be this year. So it comes out at a wash, really, and really it comes out, I think, not so much to the Steelers' favor because they had to pay him on his minimum salary this year would be $800. Let me make sure I got this pulled up correctly here with Sean Davis. $825,000 is his base salary in 2020. I was counting on his base salary being 1 year up from that, being $910,000, with him having a cap charge of $750,000 because of a minimum signing benefit. But because he did not get that credited season, he did not qualify for a minimum signing or minimum salary benefit deal anyway. So it essentially cost them, when you take out what Curtis Riley, I think, was scheduled to make. Anyway, they lost out on about $75,000 worth of cap space by making that switch because of Sean Davis not getting that credited season last year. So a little tiny minutia there, but I had talked about expecting Sean Davis to get a minimum salary benefit deal. That wasn't the case. He's going to make $825,000 in 2020.
And we know that for sure. He signed for the minimum?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if those numbers had come out yet or not. So there you go. So I think really cheap, valuable depth for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he will be a free agent after this season.
That would be correct.
Okay, so add another name to the list of the Steelers free agents to be after this season. Dave, you had your season predictions prior to Thursday's game. You have your 2020 NFL predictions across the league. Who's going to make the playoffs? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? And I think Steelers fans will hope you're right this year.
Yeah, obviously spilling the beans. We'll obviously get more into our expectations, season preview, if you will, for the 2020 Steelers on Monday as part of the Monday show and all. But before the season kicks off every year on a Thursday, I try to get my full. Boy, I don't know why I do it. I'm a glutton for punishment. I go game by game and I try to predict all 256 games.
How long does that take you?
Yeah, a little too long.
don't answer that.
Too long, Alex. Too long. And then I try to predict, the team's going to make the playoffs, obviously, and then I try to predict the whole tournament and season prediction and who's going to win the Super Bowl, yada yada yada. Long story short, and look, I'm the king of Steelers going 10-6. I have them going 12-4 this year, Alex. I think when you look at this defense, when you look at the continuity that we've talked about all off season here, when you look at their schedule, just everything, the return of Ben, obviously, when you just look at all this in totality, Man, this is at least, in my opinion, a 10-win team. So that's where I should start at.
Right. I'm with you.
This at the bare minimum, I'm going to be extremely. If there's not a slew of injuries, which obviously I hope doesn't happen, this team should win just by messing up a couple of times during the season. They should win 10 games. So, where does the optimism and all come in from that? It comes in from the continuity. It comes in from Ben's back. It comes in the whole COVID environment thing and having somewhat of an advantage there. I look at this thing and the easy way out would just say 10-6. That aspect. I didn't want to do that this year. I think that this team can win 12 games overall here. That's what I think the expectation should be, somewhere between 13 wins and 10 wins. So from that point forward, I think, and you look in the AFC North specifically, I expect the Ravens to take a tiny step back, Alex, and I think more so maybe on the defensive side of football. Now, I did not give the Ravens enough respect on the defensive side of football last season, all right? But whatever respect I should have given them last offseason or before last season started, I think they're going to have some sort of regression there. I think to some degree the offense, I just don't see how Lamar Jackson can play as out of his mind as he did. Now he's probably going to still play well, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's a little bit of regression there, and I think they come to earth a little bit, and by coming to earth, I think they're having, I don't think they're going to sweep the Steelers. I definitely think those two teams split this year. That's one other game that I think benefits the Steelers there. I think the Steelers, outside of that, I think I have them sweeping the rest of do I not? I think I have them, let's see. Yeah, I have them sweeping the rest of the AFC North there. Long story short, I had this team going 12-4. I had this team capturing the number 1 seed in the AFC and thus getting the bye. And I think this team, I'm go out on a limb. It's been a while since I predicted the Steelers to win it all. I think this team has a shot to win it all. I think I had them down as beating the Buccaneers because what a great storyline. You get to exercise so many demons. I think along the way here, Brady. You get to exercise those demons. BA, the whole BA aspect of the storyline here. The game being played in Tampa would actually be another kind of thing that would obviously be, I would think, in Tampa's favor to some degree. What else along the line here? I think you get a chance to. I had them beating the Bills in the playoffs here after losing to the Bills, I think, in the regular season there. So you get to exercise those demons along the way there. Just so many things pointing to, I think, why it's okay to think that this team has now, in the end, do I know what's going to happen? Obviously, no. But I like this team's chances, and as I think you would agree with me more than anything here, Alex, this is the season, if they're going to do it, that they better do it because of the roster makeup, because of the amount of turnover that I think you and I both obviously we vary about the degree of the turnover probably going to happen, but it's still going to be substantial nonetheless. This is the best case scenario, and I think really this is something that you have written since really last year. Last year and this season probably being the two best chances for this team to win it all. Obviously, losing Ben really did his team in last year, but they still managed to win 8 games regardless with that. So that's where I am on this. I don't know how. I'm sure I'm being labeled a homer on this, but I think if you look back, I mean, I'm not one that I don't come out every season and think, the Steelers are going to win it all. Obviously, they're not the favorites to win it all. I think you could get them. I think really the odds right now is 22-1, 25-1. So obviously, the betting public overall in general not on board with the Steelers being the favorite to win it all. But I like their chances, and that's where I went with this.
I'm with you. I hear you. They got a shot. They got a really good roster. As you said, you take an elite defense in this offense the way it is, as long as Ben stays healthy, that is baseline worst case scenario, a 10-win team. And you can just try to stack from there 11-12. So I don't think a 12-4 season is out of the realm of possibility, not even close to it. That is a reasonable expectation for this unit. And will I be ultimately as optimistic as you and say they're going to win it all? I'm not sure if I'm quite there yet, just because we've been in this conversation so many times before and it just hasn't happened. And it is just so tough for them to get over that hump for whatever the reason is. But yeah, this is a great roster. And as you said, I'll write about it again for Monday. Enjoy this roster because while the window will not shut next year, assuming that Ben is still the quarterback, it will be a much tougher climb because you'll be losing so many key pieces regardless of who those guys are. You're just losing whether that's Dupree, Juju. Even if you keep one or two of those guys, you're still losing the rest, and that's going to make your roster worse.
Look, I mean, Ben helps you out by at least 2 games over last year. Assuming that roster, the defense plays. This defense should be lights out. I mean, I'm talking. Can this defense rival the last really super great one in Pittsburgh, which 2008? I don't know if it can get there, but the expectations should be close. I mean, we've said that for a while now. This should be a top 3 defense. And really, if they finish third in adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat, I'll be disappointed. I got to be honest with you. I mean, the pass rush, getting to it back, we talked about having these guys on the edge in Watt and Dupree. I mean, this defense, Devin Bush another year in this defense. This defense should be able to stomach an injury or two as long as that injury or two is not a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick.
The two small concerns for the defense is one, run defense, just because you did lose Hargrave. This is not a bad run defense by any means. They weren't a bad run defense last year, but there are some questions there, especially in the context of how good of a running game the AFC North brings. I mean, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore, all really strong rushing attacks. You got to stop the run to win the North. And then just, do you expect some statistical regression in the takeaway category, which I do. I just think it's just statistically hard to get 38 takeaways back-to-back years. So if you drop that number from 38 to the high 20s, maybe 30 on the button, that's still a really good number, but it's not 38.
Sure, but I'm hoping the your offense being better makes you a better defense because you're not on the field to get those maybe those extra 5 takeaways or whatever.
And that's fair.
And your defense is not as pressing, I guess, to get those. I mean, obviously you're trying, you're trying to take away the football as often as possible, regardless of what's happening with your other unit on the other side there. But look, I mean, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic there. And with that, what is your predictions for this team? Or for this team? Or are you going to hold off until?
Yeah, I'm going to wait till Monday because I still want to sit on it some more. Let's see how the crowd reacts to Dave's predictions, and I'll base it off of that. My other concern, though, just in terms of just the defense, and again, this is a great defensive unit. I have very few concerns. This is all nitpicking, but just playing in AFC North, this is a man-heavy defense. This is not Dick LeBeau's defense. This is a team that runs about as much man coverage as any team in football. And when you play in AFC North with 3 very mobile quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and now Joe Burrow, when you play man coverage against mobile quarterbacks, you are kind of vulnerable to quarterbacks taking off, making plays with their feet. And I know they had success against Lamar and Baker last year, but will that happen again? That's just one other element that I do think about because usually against mobile quarterbacks, you want to play more zone defense, get eyes on the football, and this defense is built, rightfully so, around a man-to-man scheme.
All right, what do you think about the teams that I have making the playoffs, or do you want to comment on that on Monday as well?
No, I can talk about it now. Let me just make sure I know who else is making the playoffs this year in the AFC. Oh, who do you have in the? I'm just trying to see where you have.
I've got the Bills, Patriots, Titans, Ravens, Chiefs, Texans, and then Steelers. Those are the 7.
So who's like the 7th seed in this scenario?
That would be.
I don't know. You don't have actual seeds. I'm just trying to get a
I do actually. I do have them in there. Yeah, the Texans are the 7th seed.
Okay.
I'm less convinced about that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you got them 10-6.
Last night. Yeah.
So who do you have any sleeper team, AFC, NFC, that's kind of 49ers like last year, where some team kind of comes out of nowhere and surprises? Do you have that team in there?
At this point, maybe the Texans would be the surprise.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay 11-5, which is not probably what a lot of people are thinking, but obviously it'd be a big year for them.
I mean, I think the Bills and the Patriots both make it out of that division. I mean, yeah, I understand the Patriots lost Brady, but Cam Newton should be. I think that defense, along with what. I think Cam Newton, the kind of what he gives you offensively, will kind of help counterbalance what you lose from what Brady gives you. So I think the offense can be just good enough to complement that defense there. So you would agree probably the Patriots and the Bills both make it, right?
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Who's going to come out of the South? I mean, it's hard to bet against the Titans right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're the favorite to win the
South. So the only other question is and if you would agree that probably both the Steelers and the Ravens come out of the North.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that only means one team coming out of the West, and I think we'd agree that's probably going to be the Chiefs. And then I guess the only question is who's your other wild card team? Does it come out?
I like the Raiders. Raiders though this year.
All right. And out of the NFC, the teams I have are.
Dallas, Packers, Saints, 49ers to win the divisions, and then from there it looks like Minnesota, the Rams, the Seahawks.
No, I don't have Minnesota, I don't think, do I? Or do I?
Do you?
I have the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Packers, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Cowboys, and the Saints.
Okay, gotcha. So that's a top-heavy NFC you got this year.
Yeah, is Tampa overrated too much? I mean, or not?
I worry about that defense. I know we're all focused on Brady and the offense and the weapons with Godwin and Evans and all them, but that defense still scares me.
In fairness, I think I have the Buccaneers making it as second place in that division behind
the Saints.
Behind the Saints there. So I think the Saints are going to be the cream of the crop. And then the main thing is I foresee the Buccaneers and the Saints playing each other in the divisional round of the playoffs. And the winner of that game, Buccaneers Saints, in my mind, is the one that's going to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC side.
I'm not as confident in the Rams this year. I think 11-5. I think Arizona's going to have a better season than what you have, and I think the Rams aren't going to be an 11-win team.
If that's the case, what does it say about the Golden Boy Sean McVay?
Yeah, well, it says. I mean,
are you going to
question? Trust Jared Goff?
Yeah. I just think that defense is going to be good enough to keep that offense and keep them hanging around. I think that offense. I think that's another case of the offense being just good enough. Same kind of with the Titans. I mean, am I a huge Ryan Tannehill fan? No, but I think that defense that play and their ability to run the football be just good enough to keep them in a lot of games and win some games.
Yeah, I could see a little regression with the Titans. I could see them maybe being a 10-win team. It's still probably going to win the South, but maybe not being the team they were last year, at least still hot, at least at the end of last season.
All right. So that's where I am. And boy, I was way off last year. I don't think I had the. Let me pull that up real quick to show you how bad I was at this last year. I had the Bears in the playoffs. I had the Cowboys in the playoffs. I had, I had the Steelers in the playoffs. I had the Chargers in the playoffs. Ooh. And I had the Browns in the playoffs. Ooh.
Yeah, learned your lesson.
Yeah, that's how. And I did not have, obviously, I don't think the 49ers in there as well.
Give me a score for Super Bowl 55 since you're going all out here with Pittsburgh.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, you go through 256 games, and now you're hemming and hawing over a score.
31-26.
Pittsburgh. 31-26.
Who's
MVP? My last question. Who's MVP of that game? Is it Ben?
Ben. Ben. Ben going to win Comeback Player of the Year. Ben going to give him all the trophies.
All right, fair enough. I hope you're right. That'd be one storybook season for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, two homerish, or you'll let me know on Monday.
No, I don't think it's homerish. I think it's reasonable to have Pittsburgh there. I don't know again if I share that optimism quite yet, but I'll let you know Monday.
All right.
All right, Dave. Before we get to our week 1 picks and reader emails, let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie, because football's back and MyBookie's back as well.
Yeah, winning season returns at MyBookie. Winning season means double your first deposit. Winning season means Survivor, Super Contest, and Squares. At MyBookie, winning season means hitting all your parlays and props with your feet up, watching your team trounce their rivals. Rejoice, it's time to celebrate the NFL season. Invest in your intuition today. Use promo code TERRIBLE, that's terrible, and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play, designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. From live betting to championship futures, every play you want to make is waiting at mybookie.ag. It's simple. Make your picks, win big, collect your cash. Use promo terrible and double your first deposit. That's terrible. Winning season begins today only at mybookie.ag. And once again, we are pleased as punch to have MyBookie back with us, being a sponsor of the Terrible Podcast. And with that, I think we should get to knocking out these lines as quick as possibly can. And of course, we will save the game Monday night, our prediction for Monday. We both got the game Thursday night wrong. We both had the Texans plus 9.5. All right, here we go, Alex. Miami at New England. New England at home, minus 6.5.
Wow, that's a closer line than I thought it would be, but obviously we're in a whole new era with the Patriots. So I'm going to take New England, though. I think Cam Newton's going to have a great game, and they're going to win by 2 touchdowns.
I am going to take New England out to shoot as well, too, and lay that 6.5 points. Cleveland, you get some, when we talked to our buddy Scott, and Cleveland comes out with back-to-back AFC North games, their first one of the year against Baltimore on the road. The Ravens at home, laying 7.5.
I think the Browns cover. I think Baltimore wins this one, but close AFC North battle. I think Cleveland does have a good roster this year. I'm a little worried about, obviously, Wolves at left tackle, but I think Cleveland keeps this one competitive.
All right, interesting. I'm going to take the Ravens to trounce the Browns at home. I'm going to lay the 7.5 there. Let's move on to the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo at home, laying 6.5.
Yeah, give me the Bills, the Jets. I just don't know what weapons they have. Herndon, Crowder, it's not an impressive unit. Give me Buffalo.
You know what? I think Buffalo wins this. I'm going to take the Jets to cover on the road, though. Give me that plus 6.5 there. Well, where did the rest of the odds go here? Oh, there we go. Hold on. Moving right along, the Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. The initial version of my prediction, I still had Oakland Raiders in there, and I live in Las Vegas. I should know some habits die hard. L.A. Raiders on the road, or Las Vegas Raiders on the road at Carolina Panthers. Raiders road favorites, 3 points.
I like that, though. Yeah, give me the Raiders in this one. Carolina, new head coach, too, dealing with those issues. I like Matt Rule, but tough season to be a new head coach, so give me the Raiders to win by a touchdown.
I would agree with you there, too. Give me the Raiders, lay the 3 points on the road. Seattle Seahawks on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Another road favorite here, 2.5. Seahawks favored by 2.5.
Ooh, on the road for week 1. I like Atlanta this year. I think it's a team that is being underrated a bit. Who do I want to go with here? You make your pick first while I mull it over.
I will take the Seahawks on the road to cover that 2.5.
All right, I'll go with you.
All right, the next, Philadelphia Eagles on the road against the Washington football team. Boy, that still sounds weird to say. Philadelphia, however, favored. Boy, some road favorites here. Favored by 6 on the road.
Oh, well, that is a big line for a road team. But yeah, Washington. I don't even know who their running back is. I mean, the defensive line is underrated, but everything else I don't like about Washington. So just give me Philadelphia.
I'll hold your hand. We'll run down the street together. Give me the Eagles minus 6 there. Chicago Bears on the road against the Detroit Lions. Boy, Bears, what kind of team are they? Are they the NFC version of the Texans? I don't know. Lions at home, laying 3.
I think the Bears would love to be the Texans right now. Like, that's how low the bar is. They see Mahomes, they see Watson, they have Trubisky. Give me Chicago, though. Kenny Galladay, he's looking pretty questionable for this weekend. I don't love either team here. I probably wouldn't bet on this one, but give me Chicago.
You know what? Matt Patricia better get this turnaround. If Matt Patricia doesn't get this team in the playoffs, he could be out this year. Give me the Lions to start off 1-0 and lay the 3 points. Or I think they cover that at home. Indianapolis Colts. Phillip Rivers, boy, it's weird to see him in a Colts uniform on the road against. You might as well. Boy, this isn't the Jaguars team we've gotten used to seeing, several years, really, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to call them the Jacksonville football team. Indianapolis on the road laying 8 points.
Oh, wow. These road teams and these lines, man, they're crazy. Jacksonville, the only other stadium I believe that has fans this weekend aside from Arrowhead. Give me Jacksonville to cover just because that line's too big on the road.
It's too bad some of those fans probably need to play defense as well. Give me the Colts. Give me the Colts. Lay 8. Packers at the Vikings. Vikings at home laying 2.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota at home. I think they're going to have that obviously that sound ground attack with Dalvin Cook. I think they'll deal without having Stephon Diggs. Close game, but I'll go Minnesota.
Boy, betting against Aaron Rodgers in week 1, huh? I'll take the Packers in the upset here. Packers win outright, so jump on that money line there. Plus 2.5. Give me the Packers there. The Chargers on the road against the Bengals here, and obviously rookie Joe Burrow. The Chargers, boy, I'm not going to be scrambling to try to tune this one in. I don't think. I will want to watch the highlights though and see how Burrow plays. Chargers on the road laying 3.
Yeah, well, you know what? Give me the Bengals on this one, just because the Chargers without Phillip Rivers, they have Tyrod Taylor, it's a downgrade there. They lose Melvin Gordon. Mike Williams has an injury, questionable to play as we sit here today. I think the Bengals will rely on that run game with Joe Mixon. Their line's a little bit better. I'll go Bengals on this one.
Chargers, just because of better pass rush all the way around. They're probably going to do some things with who's their defensive coordinator, the ex Jaguars head coach, right?
Gus Bradley.
Right. I think he's just going to be too much for Joe Burrow. So give me the Chargers to lay the 3 on the road against the Bengals there. We got a few of them different right out of the chute here, Alex. Next one, Arizona Cardinals on the road against the 49ers. 49ers laying 7.
I like Arizona this year. Be a much better team. Obviously, they got Hopkins in the fold. Cliff Kingsbury's second year, but I'm going to go San Francisco by 10.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the Cardinals, I think, will be better this year, but it's probably going to take them a little bit of time. So give me the 49ers to lay the 7 at home there. Tampa, I guess we're moving on to, Tampa Bay at the Saints. This ought to be a good one. Breeze versus Brady. Brady and the new Diggs. Saints at home laying 3.5. What say you?
Yeah, it's going to be one of the toughest picks for me to make this week. Mike Evans, he's questionable with a hamstring type injury. I'm going to go the Saints in this one, but this will be a really good game.
Yeah, I think it's going to take, even though I've got Tampa going to the Super Bowl, I think it's going to take them a week or two to find their legs and all like that. Give me the Saints at home, laying 3.5 to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That gets us to, I think, the Sunday night game. Dallas at the Rams. Dallas on the road, favored by 3 against the Rams.
Yeah, I'm not big on the Rams this year, so I'm all in on Dallas. I think Dak's going to have a fantastic season.
Really? Okay.
I do.
Give me the Rams in that defense, man. I think McVay outcoaches the Dallas side there. So give me the Rams plus the 3. I like them to win outright as well. So let's see. We also have the late Monday night game. I guess we could pick that on Monday, right? Or do you want to pick it now?
Your choice.
Let's go ahead and pick it now, being how the line's up there. Tennessee Titans at the Denver Broncos. Titans on the road, favored by 2.5.
Another road favorite. My goodness. Yeah, do I want to go Denver in this one? They got some injuries. Cortland Sutton's hurt. I'm going to go Tennessee, but I think this will be a close game.
Yeah, those injuries, man. Already losing Von Miller. Looks like Cortland's going to potentially miss some time, at least this game. That Denver, what do you think about that Denver offensive line, too? Give me the Titans on the road, lay the 2.5.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
We'll pick the Steelers game on Monday.
Right. We went in a lot of different directions for week 1.
Sure did.
All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and close out the show.
All right, this one from JJ writes in, hey, guys, it's JJ from Lexington. First off, I really enjoy when Dave talks salary cap almost as much as he enjoys discussing it. My first question, can you explain the new roster rules? Is it 53 or 55? I'm a rule stickler, and it bugs me that I don't understand that change. I think he's also asked, are you guys going to get a Giants beat writer? We're going to try to. Sometimes with these big city guys, sometimes, especially the Giants, because, look, we don't have several of these teams, only once every 4 years and all, and it makes maintaining a relationship with them tough. I'm efforting to get a Giants beat writer, and hopefully we do for the Monday show, but I don't have anything lined up yet. Hopefully that changes in the next couple of days there. As far as the new roster rules, look, during the week you can keep 53 on your roster, okay? You can go as high as 55 on the weekend. All right, and you can dress as many as 48 as we covered earlier in the show. I think we covered that pretty well at the beginning of the show, right, Alex?
Yeah, it's 53. You can expand to 55 if you want to do the practice squad call-ups. Otherwise, you stay at 53. So a max roster of 55, a max game day roster of 48, provided you have at least 8 offensive linemen dressed.
All right, let's go to Jim Bendis here. Jim writes in, hey, guys, just a quick question. How big of a night do you expect Chase Claypool to have Monday night? What do you think the over-under is? I'm guessing 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. How far off him? I'd tell you somebody who's bullish on him is Nate Burleson. I don't know. I think he's got him he's 100 yards and a touchdown. I forget how many catches he said for Chase Claypool right out of the chute. Look, anything could happen. I think that's way too bullish on Chase Claypool. What say you as far as a reasonable, maybe from where we sit right now, expectation and over-under amount for Chase Claypool Monday night against the Giants, Alex?
I don't know, obviously. I will take the under on receptions. I will take the under on yards, but I'm going to take the push on touchdowns and say he catches his first touchdown on his first career catch Monday night, because so many Steelers have done that. I think Juju might have did it. AB did it. James Washington did. There's a weird history. Martavis Bryant did it. I think he gets a red zone jump ball. He hauls in. Is
that in your pregame stats of the weird or no?
It will be if Claypool does it. I'll put that in my back pocket right now.
Jim has 40 for 40 and 1 TD. I'm going to click down 3 catches for 30 yards, and I'm with Alex. I think it could be a push on a touchdown, just for especially if look, it's going to be interesting to see. We know that this kid's going to get used in some degree in the red zone. We just don't know how much right out his chute it is. But I would not be stunned if like Alex says, first reception in the end zone, in the red zone for a touchdown. I would not be shocked by that. I still feel that 4 for 40 is bullish, and obviously Alex does as well there. I think more along the lines of 3 for 30 just feels more right, and especially if Deontay's not 100%.
Here's my arbitrary, made up on the fly, but I'm going to stick with it prediction. Claypool has 2 catches for 13 yards and a touchdown. 1 is a jump ball in the end zone. 1 is a design screenplay that goes for like 7 yards. And there's 1 deep ball that's slightly overthrown.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right. Brett's got 3 emails here. I'm going to pick the one that I'm going to pick the one in the middle here. Brett, because the other ones we can answer at later dates because I think they're cap or CBA related here. I have got to admit I was surprised and pleased with the roster decisions. However, I'm confused about the decision to keep Pierre. It's probably not a big deal, but to me, there was no reason to keep him on the active roster to be the number 6 corner. There was no real risk of him being claimed or poached in a year when no one will get to see him, no preseason from the practice squad. To me, there's a better chance that a guy like Riley would get into the game at least early in the season, number 4 safety versus number 6 corner. Here's my question. Could this mean that Pierre is not the number 6 corner, but in fact ahead of Justin Lane. We know Lane was very good on special teams last year, so Pierre is not likely being kept for special teams, but Lane might be. If Pierre were ahead of Lane on the depth chart, but you wanted Lane as a gunner, that would explain keeping both and letting Riley go to the practice squad. If I'm right, does that say more about Pierre or more about Lane?
I mean, really can't answer any of those things because I didn't get eyes on Pierre. The first snap I'll see him take in a uniform in Pittsburgh whenever he gets active will be the first one that I've watched. I doubt it right now. I think if you're overthinking it a little bit, I think it's just they have an interesting 6-foot corner that has good ball skills, and that's worth keeping around. They just have a young corner they're excited about, which, given the Steelers' track record, has been rare. So I think they just want to hold on to those guys when they find them.
I will answer it like this. If indeed he was your number 4 corner, you would find a way to probably get him dressed. Now, we'll see if that ultimately happens. From where I sit right now, I more so like the odds of Pierre not dressing Monday night. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, if Pierre, if all these corners dress, then maybe there's a little something to what Brett's saying here, right?
Yeah, sure, and we'll see, and that'll give us at least a better answer so far because we have just no information to go off of right now. But I still think, at least I think it should be that Cam Sutton is the next man up, basically any cornerback spot. Like I don't think I'd put Lane or Pierre in there above Sutton right now.
Right, and you're not going to get any push. Obviously, not going to get any pushback from me from that aspect of it. Who else would you have kept? I guess let's answer it this way. Who else would you have kept on your 53 if not Pierre?
I think he's saying Riley, or at least trying to make an argument to Curtis Riley.
But would have Riley have even dressed with Sean Davis back?
Probably not.
I agree. So why wouldn't you keep the younger, more upside player? I mean, I agree. I wasn't worried about as good a camp as it seemed like, and that's so dangerous to use coming out of the type training camp here because didn't see zero of it or hear zero of it from you. I still wasn't worried as good as it seemed of a training camp that Pierre had that I was worried about him getting poached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the odds were obviously severely decreased.
But on the flip side, if you know that you're going to have guys that not dress anyway, and you like the upside of a guy like Pierre, and you're fairly confident, or you could live with the fact that, look, they didn't even put, Riley was one of the guys they protected, so they obviously liked him enough, that aspect of it. I see where Brett's coming from, but I mean, I don't have a good answer for it, obviously. And look, where we left off from Justin Lane last year, outside of his gunner play, we didn't learn anything new about Justin Lane.
Right. No, we didn't. Let's just see what happens week 1, who gets a hat, who doesn't, and that may at least begin to create some clarity to that question.
All right, let's see if I can find got another one from Bryce here. I can't wait for Monday night. Some thoughts and questions. Always wanted to see Marcus Allen move to inside linebacker. I think he's got the frame that could get up to 225, and while I would have liked to see more veteran backup at inside linebacker for depth purposes, I like the Allen move, and I think he could develop into a solid piece of the defense. Wait, did he write solid piece of the defense? I think Allen move, and I think he could develop into a solid piece of the defense. Next year, do you think he could possibly compete to push Spillane off the roster? That's part 1.
I don't think it has to be either or. And Spillane obviously did a great job on special teams last year, 11 tackles in like 8 games, something ridiculous like that. So we're getting into that some minutia of the roster that's hard to predict right now. I just want to see Allen get a hat this year, make an impact on special teams, and just kind of begin to climb that ladder because he's got to take that path because his dude's played about 30, 35 total snaps, offense and defense, in 2 years. And he's going to make an impact this season.
Bryce, I think solid piece of the defense is a little strong wording on your part.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, look, Spillane, he's this year's Matakevich. He's more of an asset to you first and foremost on special teams, period. And which Allen should be out there too,
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I love the signing of Dobbs and Davis for backup roles. Solid moves. My concern is that I think Davis plays much better in the box than he does having play with range in the post. Glad they were able to keep Riley in case they need a guy that can do more covering with range. If Minkah were to get injured, your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to get Riley. Riley is allergic to some contact there. So, I mean, obviously he's not going to be a guy I don't think that you're going to want to play down low as much, obviously. And Davis, I think, is best suited, even though Davis has got some tackling issues as well, too. It's more technique than I think it is want to on his end. But, yeah, Davis, I think, should be considered more of a better box player than Riley.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting. You got some candidates there with Allen and Davis and Tillman spinning down and dime stuff. So we'll see. But again, just for Marcus Allen, let's get him active, get a helmet, get him on special teams. That's where he's got to start really his NFL career.
And look, I mean, Riley's not on your 53 right now. Sure, he's a phone call away. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter right now what Riley is or isn't right now. Now, obviously, if Minkah goes down, I would still think that Sean Davis is probably going to get the first crack at it, God forbid,
I agree.
All right, number 3, my biggest concern for this Week 1 game actually harkens back to the final 3 games. I would be shocked if the Giants' front 7 didn't do Bills, Jets, Ravens-like things to the Steelers' new-look offensive line on Monday night. Sean Surratt and Fichtner better be ready for those blitzes in the double-A gaps and multiple guys on the line of scrimmage, or it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure they're looking at the tape of last year and trying to find some of those weaknesses. But I think obviously when you have Ben back who can identify this stuff more, create protections, more answers to it, you have Surratt in the second year, a little less chaos, a lot less chaos than last year. I think that'll hopefully be able to adjust to some of those safety blitzes and mugging the A-gaps that really just ruined the Steelers the last 3 weeks of 2019.
Right. And look, I mean, you got obviously Filer moving over. You got until DeCastro gets back, you got Wisniewski at right guard and Banner obviously at right tackle. So going to be interesting to see this continuity and how quickly this group can come together. And although it's going to be part of our breakdown on Monday, I'm not expecting Ben Roethlisberger to hold on to the football too long.
Right, and I think Joe Judge made a reference to that yesterday or something about how quickly Ben gets the ball out of his hand.
All right, let's see here. Stephen Small writes in, hey, David Alex, here's to another year of you two getting me through my winter commutes with my favorite podcast. He's from Scotland, by the way, too. How about that?
Nice.
Favorite podcast full of valuable Steeler insights. Got a question about the O-line after listening to the last episode. How far-fetched are the following 2 lineups in 2021? Chooks, Filer, Pouncey, DeCastro, Banner, or Banner, Dotson, Pouncey, DeCastro, Filer, with Chooks still at swing tackle. I realize both options involve letting Big Al walk, but I think they're going to have to make tough decisions like this. So he wants to know most likely Chooks, Filer, Pouncey, DeCastro, Banner, or Banner, Dotson. This is all left to right. Banner, Dotson, Pouncey, DeCastro, Filer. Ooh, that's a tough choice.
Yeah, I don't know if either are likely in the exact layout. I think obviously it's unpredictable to say what the 2021 O-line is going to look. I think it's fair to say that Villanueva could be gone, and you're right, the tough decisions will be made, and they will not be able to retain all 3 of the free agents to be along the O-line. That's Villanueva, Filer, and Banner. I don't see a core 4 magically becoming the left tackle of the future after losing out the right tackle job this year. I don't really see Banner as a left tackle. I know the lines between left and right tackle are blurred, but I just don't see that. My strong suspicion is they'll be drafting a tackle left or right pretty high in the draft, as in first or second round next year.
Then that's kind of what we've discussed as well too. So wondering about it does now that with the whole Banner Chooks thing, what's that going to do to the draft?
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I know we're just trying to throw stuff at the wall and just try to get an idea for next year, but I really can't predict this offensive line for next season. You got Pouncey in the middle, you got the Castro at right guard. From there, it gets pretty messy and murky just because you have those guys on expiring contracts and you don't know exactly where Dawson's going to be at and the rest. And so I think you'll see a draft pick in there. Again, my hope is to be able to retain Filer. So if you could have basically Dotson at left guard, Pouncey at center, DeCastro right guard, Filer right tackle, and you draft a left tackle, then that may be one of the better case scenarios. Still obviously far from ideal, but let's just get through the season, see who plays well, who doesn't, who gets retained, and kind of work it from there.
All right, real quick update from buddy Joel Corey. By the way, you should be following Joel Corey at Corey Joel on Twitter, reading anything that he writes on CBS Sports, and you should be listening to his podcast as well, too. New podcast, just long enough, too. It's like 35, 45 minutes, right around in there. Man, he does I'm in heaven. I mean, this, and I don't listen to a lot of, podcast, football podcast overall, because I'm so damn busy. What I do not miss an episode of that. He lets me know the roster bonuses for Cam Hayward. Obviously the $2.75 million this year. All right. That's treated like a signing bonus. $6 million in 2021 and $4.5 million in 2022. And indeed, Cam Hayward's total take in 2021 is his $4.5 million base salary and his $6 million roster bonus. So of that $10.5 million that Cam Hayward is scheduled to earn in 2021, all but probably what the minimum base salary can be, which I think is going to be like 1.7 whatever it is million, will likely be turned into a signing bonus as part of a restructure to lower Cam's number. So if real quick here, that would mean Hayward's cap charge in 2021 is $14.55 million as we sit here right now in 2021.
Okay. And how does that compare to kind of what you expected?
I expected it'd probably be about 2 or 3 million higher, I think.
Okay. Reflects that team-friendly-ish
cash flow and all like that. So back to Stephen Small and his question real quick. I don't know which one of those two I would choose. I don't think both of them have Filer being back, and I just wow. I guess I would go of the two. And if you're going to re-sign Banner, man, do you move him out to left tackle? Yikes! I
think of the two, the second is more realistic.
And even then, I'm hedging here. Banner, I don't think Filer. This is a tough one, man, because you look at it. I'm going to go with number 2: Banner, Dotson, Pouncey, DeCastro, Filer, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've just given up hope, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've given up hope on the idea that Okorafor is going to be a starter for this team in a meaningful way.
And now maybe they, if this cap comes in better and all like that, maybe there's a good chance they re-sign Banner, But even so, Banner's going to, if he has a great season, he's going to want to be paid as a top starting right tackle, and you can't blame him after all he's been through. Now it would probably, obviously it might not be top 10, but it'd probably be top 15. And maybe that's him giving the Steelers a discount of sorts. Just keep your fingers crossed that that Banner, he's your guy now, that he plays well, then let the rest of this stuff work itself out.
Exactly.
One other question here, and I know we're running along, but Rich has a good one. Rich Stein writes in, "Hello, Dave. I listened to the podcast and asked for your thoughts about the following. Each time a player is picked up that has been from other teams, why do you not discuss in detail why that player was let go? You spend more time discussing why the Steelers picked him up. For example, Dustin Colquitt was dropped by the Chiefs. What were the reasons? Why was he on the market for so long? What other teams might have had interest in him? Davis cut by Washington after giving him a $2 million signing bonus. Why was he dropped? I know you do not have inside answers as to why, but can you speculate or provide insight via writers for that team, Chiefs and Washington? Then can you review why does that not matter? I think it provides a balance. I'm not sure you can point to instances where you do this. I'm just asking for you and Alex to be more aware that some of us want to hear more of the other side of the story. What do you and Alex think? It's a fair question, but the fact of the matter is, in not covering these teams, especially in this situation, we We don't sit there and read all the reports that come out of Sean Davis from Washington while we're trying to focus on getting content written for the Steelers. I will tell you what I think I know since all this has happened. Davis wasn't making plays in camp, from what I understand, and that Troy Apke or whatnot, they wanted to take a look at him in the secondary, and he really kind of never relinquished the job. All right. Now, you would say, well, but you had $2 million invested in Davis, at least from a special teams aspect, and having that sunk cost in there. Why wouldn't you at least hold him?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. And I think it is a fair question. We try to touch on it occasionally, but I just basically adopt the Mike Tomlin philosophy of we don't really care where you came from, how you got here, just you're here now, and how can you help the team win? I think that's kind of just the pertinent question that most Steelers fans have is just, okay, how can a Sean Davis help this team as opposed to, well, why was he available in the first place? But yeah, that's fair. And then to Colquitt, they drafted Tommy Townsend, I think, in the draft,
right.
and that let Colquitt go. And I don't know why he was available for so long. I don't know if that's because there wasn't interest or he just wanted to wait and kind of evaluate his options or was considering retirement unless the perfect scenario came up. I don't know. That's why we don't usually focus on that, because there is so much speculation and so many things we don't know. So fair point. We'll try to bring it up more often. But again, our focus is just usually on the most important question, which is how can this guy help this team, or if he'll help this team, as opposed to why was he available in the first place? And
let's make a point clear too. The way the Steelers do business oftentimes too. Look, are these guys were obviously not retained by their teams for reasons, skill related to some degree here. Kevin Colbert though has a history of hopping in the dumpster, moving some stuff around, looking what's there, and taking the best looking trash, if you will, and having them on the roster for a year. Okay. I hope we did not frame this thing as, oh, thank God they got Sean Davis back.
Right.
But
right.
In the same breath, the familiarity aspect of it has some degree. The devil you know versus the devil you don't know has some degree of value to it.
Especially in a season like this.
Was anybody doing backflips? I mean, no. There was. What's the best? What is the best way I'm trying to describe this? Do I expect both these guys to be on the Steelers roster in 2021? No.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? Maybe Davis, but I mean, he'd have to take a minimum salary benefit deal just to get himself there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not expecting it. Possible, but yeah, I framed it as obviously these are not home runs; these are just solid singles up the middle.
How about flares?
Okay, more bloop single than solid single. Infield hit.
A ground ball with eyes.
took a good hop.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's fair what Rich is asking us, but I'm not sure if what we're giving him as an answer is enough.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or not. I would just say our answers, I think we're more informative when we can talk about how the player can help the Pittsburgh Steelers than we are when we talk about why he is no longer with his previous team.
And look here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time or as much time breaking down punter tape as Alex. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's not.
It's fun. You should try it.
It's not one of your favorite things either. But the whole experience, directional. I'll say this: the experience and situation knowing, especially from a punter. And look, his holding ability might have something to do with this. Maybe being a more consistent holder on top of everything else. Consistency, experience, been there, done that. Cheaper, probably enough of a reason alone. He's probably not going to be worse than Barry. If he's as equal as Barry, it's a wash. All right. Mm-hmm. So throw that out there. Now, where it comes to Sean Davis, who is it? You know,
who is what?
Who's better, Riley or Sean Davis?
I think it just depends what you're asking them to do. I think Riley has better ball skills and more range at free safety. I think Davis is more physical and a better tackler, not a great tackler, but a better tackler than Riley. I like Riley. I like Davis a lot more strong safety than I do Riley. I think it's pretty close at free safety. It just depends what specific aspect of the game you're looking for. Davis, I trust a little bit more as a tackler and a little more physical guy against the run. Riley, I like his ball skills more. That's where I come in at.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you too. I mean, the thing is though, let's hope we don't get to where we're seeing a lot of either one of those there. So anyway, is that a good place to, I think, stop here? Let me see if I got anything else here that we left over from the other day here.
Yeah, it's probably unless there's some of the other email, but yeah, we got football this weekend. I hope everybody enjoys it. Football is finally back. I know it'll feel a little different, but I don't know. I mean, I know there were fans at yesterday's game, but it felt pretty normal to me, to be honest with you.
It did to me as well too. Just the production of the game itself. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It just felt more like a preseason game a little bit, with the smattering of fans in there. One last one from Denny Holtzclaw writes in, "Hey guys, my name is Denny. Love the podcast. Never miss one. I was just wondering how do you guys think the no fans in the stands going to change the game, or will we even notice? I'm hoping we don't even notice, much like kind of last night. Alex. I tell you what, I noticed there were fans there. Does that make sense? Now, was that because there weren't fans there? I mean,
I think we'll get used to it. I've gotten used to it watching hockey or basketball or baseball pretty quickly. I'm just getting happy that sports are back. I'll take the trade-off of no fans being there. From a player perspective, I'm sure they'll obviously notice it a whole lot more than we will, and there's implications of how that will affect, trying to work on a silent count more potentially or whatever the case is. Obviously, crowd noise is getting pumped in. So the bottom line is, I think, I'll adjust very quickly, and I think players will adjust pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, and I'm just interested in the whole crowd noise aspect and, loudness. And, are we going to hear audibles distinctly even on TV with the booms, boom mics and just sort of those things? Look, from where we were 3 months ago, I'm just pleased as punch that we got football back, man. But I don't think no fans in the stands will severely impact games. I think after the initial couple of games on Sunday, and we take notice of what games actually have fans versus those that have a smattering that in the stands. I don't think we're going to pay much more attention until we get in a situation where there are more fans in the stand and we say, oh man, it just sounds like a bigger crowd.
Right. And as Mike Tomlin has said a million times, every team is dealing with these issues, essentially. So it's a pretty level playing field.
All right. Good job, everybody. Listeners, some good quality, overall questions there. We appreciate those. And I think we're running a little bit long here as expected here. Alex and I will be back on Monday previewing the game against the Steelers and the Giants. Hopefully we'll have a beat writer. Alex will give you his I'm going to hold his hand to the fire. Ooh, ooh, ow, ooh. To give his predictions for the season, and especially Steelers related, and just who he thinks is going to win it all. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, we entertain you. You want to donate, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upright navigational bar. For $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. A lot of people taking advantage of that. Alex, good job today. I appreciate it. I always love talking football with you, brother. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.